Good morning, Lafayette. Man, what a morning this morning. It has been very windy out and about throughout the local area. Welcome back to Let's Talk Lafayette, your go to source for all things local in Tippecanoe County. It's Friday, January 9th, 2026, and boy, is Mother Nature keeping us on our toes today with those gusty winds whipping through town. There were gusts up to 70 miles an hour throughout the state overnight and still blowing strong at around 38 miles an hour here in town. With a chill in the air, it's about 46 degrees. But we're Hoosiers, right? We got this. So today we're diving into the latest headlines from stormy weather shifts to community milestones and some serious local incidents that have been happening. Stick around. Plus, you know what? First off, I also got to get into we got some major news that'll be going on. World news, we'll cover some of that. I'll hit the weather off and on. We got a Purdue game coming up. The ladies won last night. So a lot of information going on. So stick around as we break it all down and keep the conversation going about what matters right here in Lafayette. And of course, because I am a meteorologist, I am your host, Brian Burden. I like to start off with weather, and I generally do a pretty good deep dive into this. I don't just do 3 minutes and here's what it's going to be like. I show you and tell you what you're going to be running into when it comes into the weather for the day. So we're going to do a good 20 minutes to a half hour of what's going to happen today, tomorrow, and probably next week, and even at the extended. Although, as you know, I don't take a lot of guidance in the farther extended 2 weeks out kind of thing other than trends during that time frame. So looking pretty good on that front. So let's get to it pretty quickly here. I'm going to go ahead and zip on over to my screens and start talking about some of the weather. It's been 5 days. This is the fifth day we're working on the show, and my voice is starting to go, as you can hear a little bit. So let's hope we can get through this 3 hours. Chat me up if you get a chance. Let me know where you're at, what's going on in your neighborhood, what you want to talk about. The show is slowly going to evolve into your show, with me just being the host, guiding you along with all of your words, all the things you want to talk about in it. Let's start off with there you go, 45 degrees currently. Feels like 25. Why? Because we have an 18-mile-per-hour steady wind out there with gusts in the upper 30s to near 40. There is a wind advisory in effect until 11 a.m. for the local area. So you can kind of see that on this chart right there. They finally came out with something in the evening last night. I thought they'd pop it out by late in the afternoon, but it seemed like they waited till the evening, and then the winds kicked in pretty strong. There was a clap or two of thunder, I believe, overnight, but nothing real major. Rains weren't overly heavy or anything as the front went through. At least the rain portion of the front went through, and as expected, the high temperature was 63 degrees in Lafayette. Probably came shortly after midnight, somewhere by 3 a.m., and we've been falling off ever since. So, high temperatures yesterday on Thursday, because it's Friday today. On Thursday, we're hovering around the upper 60s, but that was like 10 or 11 o'clock last night, too. So, the whole entire area will be falling off temperature-wise today. It shows a high of 55, but remember, like I said, look at this, temperature's falling off basically as the day goes on. 55 now, 45 now. There you go, from 55 earlier, 43s, and then kind of just steadying in the lower 40s to mid 40s, and then falling off a little bit more tonight, as the model shows, at least on these just canned numbers here. High tomorrow, 40 and 25. There's some more rain in the forecast, but not much. Remember, I told you I thought that there wasn't going to be a lot with that, but the models have been bouncing back and forth. So we'll take a good look at that shortly. And then it shows a slow increase till Tuesday and back into some cooler weather. So going to be some ups and downs with some of the actual weather in the next week. I think this week's a little more up and down, especially these first few days with the rain and the winds that have been in here. Taking a look, there's some of the temperatures around the local area and what you're seeing, 40s and 50s. Look at the pocket of 50s and 60s has already pushed its way over towards Dayton. And behind it back into Iowa, you can see the temperatures are in the 30s this morning back there behind the frontal system. So Lafayette currently, there you go. 42 degrees expected at 10 a.m. this morning. Let's take a look at our first satellite chart. The low pressure system's way back up over here over Lake Michigan and moving towards the northeast. Wrap around cold front. The cold front really hasn't even passed us yet, although it's real close. But the moisture was out in front of the system, and you can see that pretty easily. But you can also see tons of clouds behind the system right here. kind of harder to pick up at night with this infrared shot, but plenty of high mid-level clouds. I don't even see a line of thunderstorms. There's one a little bit there up in northern Michigan. It did not come through with much punch at all. The thunderstorm wise, although if you got one, you're probably saying, "What are you talking about?" But there were a couple spots here or there that saw those. Lafayette right here, right where the cursor is. I'll leave it there for a few seconds so you can kind of get an idea. Lake Michigan to our north, there's some clouds coming over that. This weak trough right here. So the lows here, and this is a trough kicking off behind the system. This is what we've been watching out for to see if we get some more rain with it and scattered like showers with it possibly today. Doesn't look like much though. So it does seem like if it's anything, it's some sprinkles. And with such a strong wind, I'm not sure if we'll get anything out of it at all. That helps dry the atmosphere just a little bit. And it looks like just a few sprinkles is going to be a possibility. And then our next system will be developing on the cold front back down here. Down, and you can kind of see some of the moisture already starting to come up. And then where its trajectory goes and what it locks into with this stuff off to our northwest will be dependent on what happens in the coming day or two. So locally, it looks kind of like that. What do we have radar-wise? Well, you can see it. There's a little line of showers that have passed off towards our east, Lafayette right here. And most of the showers and any thunderstorms are already into central Ohio on the right side of the chart there. And you see a little bit of cloudiness over Chicago that may be producing a little bit of light rain. That could be what's popping up in there. Or some, like I said, some sprinkles, just a little drizzly kind of weather in those low clouds off to our northwest. But that looks to rotate north of us at this point. But we'll keep an eye on it. So if you see a few sprinkles here or there off and on during the day, you know that's probably from that little batch of system off towards our north right now. Now let's get into the forecast and look at it. And it's pretty good, right? Here's the little line we could see on the radar. Here's the showers off into central Illinois already. Here's the backdrop of the secondary trough. Kind of see the kinks in the wind barbs there. And then this one kind of shows the front already having gone through with the secondary trough right here. When I looked at some of the local data, it showed that the front was a little bit farther towards the west right now. And Lafayette currently, this is their observation, gust to 30 right now, and Lafayette at 13Z. So, and they're broken at 1900, overcast at 44. These are the cloud bases. I'm kind of highlighting them over here. Broken at 1900, overcast at 44. So there are two cloud layers that can be observed. One base is at 1900, the other one's at 4400. It is unrestricted, but winds are gusting to 30 knots, which puts you in that 35 to 40 mile an hour range. They had a peak wind of 37. Whew, there you go. That's about 43 miles an hour, I believe. Rough off the top of my head. It's just about almost a 10% difference. So some strong gusty winds, and that's Lafayette right there. Some of the other cities around, let's look at this. Goshen's gusting to 33 right now. Grissom gusting to 39. They've had a peak of 43 this hour. In the last hour, and they've got some higher clouds. It's broken at 3,400. That lower deck is not as thick for them. They're only scattered at 2,500, and I don't see any real rain showers in the forecast or anybody's observations right now. So that's the observations locally. We pin that on there. And we take a look at the satellite picture and where everything is moving. And it's going to, as always, or not always, but most of the time, everything's either moving from the southwest to the northeast or from the west to the east. And then in the winter, we'll get systems to dive down from the northwest towards us. And you can kind of see the movement with the clouds and precipitation. So when this area gets up here in the next few hours and it trails down here and we still have the cloudiness over us, that's when we're basically going to get a chance for some precipitation. Just a light shower or a flurry, not a flurry, but a little bit of drizzly just annoyance. And you can kind of see some of that. It shows it at 20Z. So we're talking about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So mainly this afternoon with that chance. That also tells me that the clouds are going to hang in here for a while before they get out. And then there's another pocket. Look at this popping up this evening. Just moisture is all it is. It's just moisture, and some of it could reach the ground. It's very light. It's not anything to write home about. It's not probably even going to restrict your visibilities or anything. But you can also see, remember the 540 line or 5,400 meters, but the 540 line is approaching. And because of that, you see some snow off to our west too, over into Missouri for tonight. So we'll have to watch our temperatures as they drop off. But as this secondary system comes through, this low now in Tennessee has dropped much farther to south, which has allowed some of the upper level moisture with this system to our north to try to bump through the area tomorrow. So it looks pretty good. Look at this. Somewhere Lafayette's right here. Just to give you a heads up, there's where Lafayette is. Lake Michigan's right there. This is state of Indiana, obviously. And right there where Lafayette is, about, it says 14Z. So that is 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. It looks like their first chances of rain in Lafayette will happen. And then it rains for an hour or two, looks like there. And then that's 18Z, which is about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It will try to stop. And then there'll probably be some of those lingering little scattered spots here or there that just pop up behind systems. See that? There'll be a little dry spot, and then maybe by the evening, we're starting to get cold enough. This is around 7 o'clock in the evening. We start to get our first chances for some light snow tomorrow night in the picture. And you see how it comes in a little waves, one little wave, and then an hour or two, it's okay. And then by 1 or 2 in the morning, it picks up again. And here's the big pocket of cold air around around the system as it moves through. And that kind of lingers through there. So because of that, let's first look at rain totals. How much rain are we expecting out of this? Total precipitation over the entire system is only 0.15, so that's not much at all. And how much snow are we talking about out of this? As you can see, as it's been doing, it's been a half an inch. It's 0.06 or zero point 0.6 down in Crawfordsville, zero point 0.1 in Lafayette, but you see how it's in streaks. It's in streaks. So you might get a quarter to a half to maybe even an isolated spot for an inch or so, but most of us are just going to get a dusting from this tomorrow night. Heavier snow is back up around Lake Michigan, where they get the wind coming off the lake. They'll be getting some 2 to 3 inches up there. And then as the winds shift on Saturday into Sunday, look at the backside of the lake. Lots of snow up there if you're heading towards Michigan, something to keep in mind. Everybody else pretty much a dusting with this first system as it moves through the area. So I think we look pretty good on that front. I think we're looking not bad at all. When it comes to the snow portion of it, all right? So, and as you would expect, I hit the wrong button, and now I'm trying to pop through, and I actually got rid of my model. So now we're gonna have to go back and get it. There it is. Bam, back to the HHR, 12Z. Let's zoom in a little closer this time. There we go. And we change it back to winter real quick just so we can look at the precipitation type. Same chart. It's just a little closer in than it was before, and it shows the same stuff. And there's your weather for Saturday. Moves through pretty quickly, and then Saturday night. I do believe you're going to see some icing conditions out of this, though, right? We've had rain on the ground. There's enough wind to dry off the ground, so hopefully it'll have time to do that. But you're going to have some rain move through in the afternoon tomorrow, and it's not. It's hard to say how much of the ground will dry. Some of the roads could stay kind of wet, and then they turn a little icy with some dusting of snow over the top. So Saturday night, this would be into Sunday morning. We definitely need to keep an eye on whether we'll have some icy conditions early in the morning on that morning. All right, so let's go a little farther out. The NAM Nest. The NAM Nest looks at us, okay, and it just goes a few hours out. It's a different model. This is a North American model. For my close-in forecasting, I use the HRRR, and this is through the College of DuPage. And a high-resolution rapid refresh is the one I just was looking at. Now I'm looking at the NAM Nest, which is it gives me another 6 hours or so, but you notice it shows the snow also. Let's look and see what it says for the snow. I'll go back here and start over. All right, so it shows us and this model is already 6 hours old because it hasn't updated yet. It'll update in another hour or two. It shows the line of showers that kind of went through some of the stuff on the backside. Let's see if it's a little more. See how it shows just a little more light rain with it, a little bit more sprinkles here or there, but it's very light green though, so I'm not too worried about any of that. And then it actually shows like it's going to clear off for a bit. And then here we are Saturday. Again, a few sprinkles, a light shower. Then that little area starts to move through. This shows it at around 9 o'clock, same time. Time frame's pretty good for coming in tomorrow, right around 9 o'clock in the morning. A little bit of light rain, bam, and then trying to turn over to snow, although it doesn't show much of a turnover during the daylight hours tomorrow. It does show, and not much for flurries or anything overnight. And then there it is. There's that first little wave. It's not quite as pronounced as it was on the Her. Um, and then here comes the second little wave by midnight or so Saturday night into Sunday, and so that keeps the main low a little farther to the north than the Her does, and we'll have to just see how close it is and isn't. It's not a major system though, but again, keep an eye for icy roads and icy systems through that. And let's take a look at the temperatures too. We forgot to look at that a little bit. Let's go back way back here. Here we are. There we were this morning, right? Very warm. We're hovering in the low 40s to mid 40s during the day today. Into the evening, we start to drop off a little bit, but we still only hit like 35 to 38 tomorrow morning. And in reality, we start to really get the cold weather or winter, more wintry type weather and the temperature wise coming back in on Sunday. And that's when you see the push. Here's Sunday morning. It's down to 22, 20. So you're talking 20 to 25, depending on where you're at. And then it warms up just a little bit. You can see how it can support snow pretty easily. It keeps it warm enough, at least here on the Nam Nest, until later. That's why it's saying there'll be less chance of snow right now on that. Now, the Nam Nest, that's a little more. You notice the wind barbs are real close together. And then when you go into the Nam, it's the same model, but this one is spread out more. So it's like looking at 1080 in the Nam Nest P, right? And then now you're looking at 720 P. So not quite as close together, all the wind barbs and that kind of thing. But the Nam goes out a little farther. So let's see how it goes. And it shows the 20s there for us, right? And then it shows a little rebound on Monday back into right around 40 degrees there. It seems like that it'll try. And then so that's the way it looks there, at least on that front. When we go back and we look at the GFS, which goes much farther out, it shows a little bit warmer temperatures on Friday. Let's see. It kind of goes through the same shift. There's the cold weather coming, and then it kind of stays in the area. Here we are Monday morning, chilly, but still getting back up to 40 there on Monday. Chilly in the morning on Tuesday, a little warmer than it was showing yesterday. So instead of like 42 on Tuesday, it's looking more like we may scratch our way up to near 50 on Tuesday. But then there's a reinforcing shot of cold weather in the middle of the week as that one little trough goes through, and we'll see that when I go back to the rain here and precipitation. By the end of the week, I mean, all these temperatures now are very close to normal for this time of the year. And there we go. Look at the big drop off. There's some cold. Next Sunday morning, looks like some single digits right now. So look for a temperature drop of at least some. It shows Lafayette at 6 degrees there Sunday morning. So very chilly on that day. That's a little below normal 6 is. But still, it is winter, and it's not out of the ordinary. And then a lot of temperatures are just hovering in the 20s and 30s, very typical for winter. January, remember, we're getting close to the coldest time of the year. Looks like there's another cold shot late, 2 weeks from today. And then that's it. No major systems, at least temperature-wise. So let's go back and look at precipitation on that and see how it's looking there for precipitation throughout the long range system, right? And you see how blotchy it is now. Again, same thing. So now we went from 1080 to 720. Now we're down to like 250 for your hits and misses of your model. But that means the model can go out farther. So it's more generic though. There's a system bumping through, right, that we talk about tomorrow night. After our rains today, it doesn't show much. It doesn't, it's not going to be enhanced enough to show you the little sprinkles and the little showers that are here or there. It's not going to be that enhanced. This GFS model, which is the global forecast model. And it's going to be one of those that it's going to pick up the major systems though, and it's going to get the trends of cold and hot. So there goes the little system by Saturday into Sunday. And then you can kind of see right here, there's a big high pressure system to our south on Monday, and it's going to kind of control what's happening to us for a couple days there. Everything looks good. One little system bumps towards the north of us on Tuesday that we talked about. And then here we are on Wednesday. Maybe a little front comes through with some snow on the backside to keep an eye on for next week on Wednesday. And then just not much. Typical weather, winter weather, just a few flurries here and there, light snow occasionally. We'll keep an eye on this system right there in case it comes a little farther north. And remember, timing when we get out here a week and 2 weeks out is can be a day or 2 days off, or it may not happen at all. It might show a big system and the system never happens, but the trends are always generally pretty good. And it showed just basic weather. So here's a pretty good system way out. Now we're back to that Tuesday, Wednesday time frame, the 20th and 21st of January that the model showed yesterday, and then it disappeared on the second run. Looks like some rain there, possibly way out on that date. Don't make your plans based on this yet. Wait till we get closer, obviously. But you can see that, and then you can kind of see the ISO bars are coming north to south, right, which tells me the wind's coming out of the north, and then my ISO heights are going east to west, and that just tells me this is kind of the snow line, but the cold weather's up here. And without even looking at the temperatures, I can see that the colder air is up here and will be being pulled down from the north during that time frame, which means lake effect snows, which you can see there pretty easily. But this is again 2 weeks out, so this is a long ways out on that. And then a big high kind of comes over us for a day or two, and here comes the next system, Saturday, the January 24th. So it's a long ways out. But that one comes in from the north a little bit, telling me there's the pattern shifts back to a colder pattern during that time frame. Let's go back to the HER though, real quick here, because I like the HER obviously because it's the closer in time frame. See if we can get to where we are. There we are. We're a little after 9 o'clock, showing just the sprinkles around and that kind of thing. And let's go back to what it shows, the sprinkly kind of rainy stuff today, tonight, tomorrow. And then the system coming in. It has a pretty robust line of rain with it compared to what we saw on the NAM and the NAM Nest and what we saw on the GFS, right? And the NAM and the NAM Nest were fairly close to this, and they didn't show, just like this one, that the HER does not show any snow on us for tomorrow during the day until later in the afternoon after the systems move through. And now we're at like 7 o'clock at night, 7, 8 o'clock at night. We start to pick up the chance for the snow coming in tomorrow night. And then there'll be a couple bands of that coming through. So you get more detail in the HER, but you get a shorter time frame. And the NAM Nest, it goes out farther. The NAM goes out even farther than that. But in each version, you're losing your intensity of what you're going to actually have. And then the GFS goes way out there. And I can mix in the European models to see things if I want to see what the temperature or what the snowfall is going to be. You notice this, look at this, over this entire period with that, there's no real snowfall in there at all through Thursday, January 15th. It just shows 1/10 of an inch. So just to give you some ideas, there are different models you can look at. You can compare them to different places. So the College of DuPage weather page is a pretty good place you might want to go to. If you're into models, you click up here in the weather data section, and you can get observational analysis. You can get satellite and radar and numerical forecasts, and those are the three things I'm mainly using from them. Like I can go back to the actual weather data. You can see it in different places. You can get raw. You can get the decoded observations, kind of give you more information if you want to just see the winds lined up. The pressure, where the clouds are. I kind of like this at times, and also the temperatures. And it's kind of all lined up so you can see it. So Indianapolis, Terre Haute is HUF. Indianapolis is IND, KIND. Lafayette is KLAF, obviously. Muncie, you see all these. South Bend, KSBN. Those are the main ones. Fort Wayne, KFWA. I've worked over there for a while too. Love that place. Great place. Evansville, KEVV, if you want to know some of them. And then you can just adjust and see. Notice it's 59 degrees down in Evansville right now. Yet up here in Lafayette, we are a chilly 47. And then you go a little farther north, you got 44 degrees. It looks like that's about the coldest in the state. 43 in Valparaiso. I think that's Valparaiso right there. So, and then if you go to the product menu, you can actually get like sector maps, and you can change it. And you can put them on maps. You can see a surface main picture of it, and you can pick out other products too that you want some specifics on, like pressure falls. Well, obviously there was a low pressure system that was moving through our area and off to our north in the last 24 hours. So all these pressures fell, right? Where they built up here, the high pressure was building into these local areas, showing that. So you can see things like that, just 3-hour pressure changes. There's all kinds of information you can find there. And as a weatherman, this is the deal right here. It's the same information that's sent out everywhere. It's just for me and a lot of guys, I think they like the look of the system that DuPage puts out. And plus, I like the colors can adjust just for my eyes. So hopefully you will like it too. And then you can even see where they have analyzed where fronts are. I'm not sure if I believe the cold front's this far back right now because the temperatures are pretty close to each other. I would put the front on or near us, right where the bars are kinking back here. But this is just an analyzation, and I'm not sure if someone put that on there or if a computer did. But I would back in the day, we would take all of this information when I first started. We would look at all these observations and we would plot the ISO bars. We would plot the ISO heights. We would put in temperatures possibly for ISO, for the therms, isotherms. And then we would plot where we thought the fronts were and everything. And then we would make forecasts off of that. It was much more time consuming back in the 80s, even though we were just starting to get graphics in that at that point. And then we got better and better in the 90s and in the 2000s. And now here we are at this point. You have almost anything you want at your fingertips. So that's much it for right now for weather. You just got yourself a 25-minute forecast for the weather that you will not get anywhere else here locally, I don't think, other than WA. And why is that? Because mainly I like to look at it, and I know you like to look at it too. All right. So, looks like my grandson Connor, he says he's at school. He buzzed in and he checked in. As of right now, it's only family there, kind of seeing what's going on, but that's okay. That's the way it works. We'll have to see how many people will check in and during the day today. Maybe Ray will be in here, or Roger, or some of the guys, and some of the ladies that are at church. Don't forget to pop in if you get a chance, and we can look and talk about all kinds of different things from the weather, of course. That's my mainstay. Sports is probably second up for me, and we got a big basketball game coming up tomorrow night after a win a couple nights ago. I think the ladies won last night. We'll probably talk a little bit about that. I know some of you are into the ladies basketball, and that's a great way to go see yourself some college basketball. The Purdue ladies went up to Michigan, I believe, last night and won a ball game. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, they won 75-67. And in the ladies basketball game, instead of halves, they used quarters. And in the first quarter, Purdue was up 18-9, so they kind of took it to them right away. But Wisconsin came right back. And at the half, it looks like it was 30-29 Purdue. But the third quarter was Purdue by 5. And in the fourth quarter, they were up by another 2. So they ended up winning 75-67. And not bad. Went on the road, shot 47%, while Wisconsin only shot 38. And a lot of that probably has to do with defense. I'm getting this straight from the women's basketball side at Purdue Athletics and the Purdue teams out there. They had a huge second half, it says, to pick them up and for their first road win in conference win of the year with a 75-67 victory at Wisconsin last night. They're now 9-7 and 1-4 in the Big Ten. They took 9 3-pointers in the second half and made 8 of them. 8 of 9. That'll do you good, won't it? Nice shooting, ladies. While shooting a blistering 64% from the field overall. And in the fourth, the Boilermakers iced the game out, going 8 of 10 from the field and connecting on all of their three-pointers in the fourth quarter. So, man, what a game. What a game. Ladies, nice shooting. Way to go. Tara Day notched her 11th game in double figures with 10 points, and she did that all in the first half. So she was scoring pretty good there. Who else did some damage? Madison Layden-Zay, she inched closer to the Purdue career three-point record, connecting 3 times from the outside. So, the fifth-year senior finished with 18 points on 4 of 7, shooting 3 of 5 from deep, and a 6 of 7 at the line. She had a great night. Nice game, Madison. And Tara had a great game with her double-double. Purdue won the battle on the glass, and this is one of the big things. If you listen to Coach Painter on the men's team, he'll tell you most of the time if you win the battle on the glass, you're going to win, right? Purdue scored 15 points on 9 second-chance opportunities, while limiting Wisconsin to 14 points after 14 offensive rebounds. So both teams did fairly well on the offensive glass, it sounds like, but still, Purdue got 15 out of it. They got 14. Lena McCarthy saved her best for last with 6 points in the fourth quarter on 3 of 3 shooting with 2 assists and 1 rebound. Nice. Nice, way to go. And the Boilermakers jumped out to a 13-4 run early in the first. That'll help you right there, won't it? You get out to that lead, you start to get comfortable, hopefully not too comfortable. I think the men have done that a little bit lately. They've gotten too comfortable with big leads and allowed other teams to at least chip away at the lead a little bit. Towards the end of the game. And I may have a file on that later too that I'll talk about the men doing that. Let's see. Purdue held Wisconsin to 2 of their first 10 field goals and 4 of 16 in the first quarter, as the Boilermakers led 18-9 by the end of it. And Wisconsin hit 4 three-pointers in the second quarter to chip away from it and get it back to 30-29. So Purdue leads the all-time series with Wisconsin, their ladies, 60-22, and the win was Purdue's 6th straight in the series. Its longest since a 13-game run from 2002 to 2009. Way to go. Man, I remember the teams back there in the early 2000s, huh? When we got that national championship back there. I don't remember the exact year now. That's pretty bad, but hey. Let's see what else happened. Purdue improved to 5-0 this season when holding an opponent to single digits in a quarter. Defense, defense, defense. There you go. Purdue is now 16-1 since the start of last year and 7-1 this season, also when scoring 70 points. So hold the other team to single digits in a quarter somewhere for tough defense and score 70 points, and you pretty much are golden. All right. So that seems to be the mainstay for the ladies. They'll head into a 3-game stretch against some ranked opposition, though. Purdue will host number 23 with Washington on Sunday at noon. And then following a week off, Purdue will play the 2 Los Angeles schools, USC on January 18th at 5 p.m. and number 4 UCLA on January 22nd at 10 p.m. So there you go. Man, ladies, way to go. We'll break that down a little bit more maybe later too, but a great game for the ladies. Nice to see that they got a win on the road. They're now 1-4 in the Big Ten and 9-7 overall. And they're a building team. They're a building team, but they're getting better. And it's nice to see some good numbers from some of the ladies there playing some great ball. Meanwhile, back at Purdue and on the men's team, you're talking about a game tomorrow at 2:00 at Mackey. Now, Purdue's 4-0, Michigan's 4-0, Nebraska's 4-0, so they're at the top of the conference. But teams like Michigan State, Illinois, and Indiana and Minnesota all have just 1 loss and are right there. Now, when you take a look at Penn State, they're at the bottom of the barrel. They're 0-4, but they took Michigan right to the brink the other night. I think Michigan won 74-72. Michigan, the juggernaut that's been running over everybody this year, almost took a loss when they went into Penn State. Now, Penn State's coming to Purdue. We're number 5 in the country, and they just took that loss from Michigan 74-72. And the Boilermakers have gone 8-1 so far this season. So you can expect that statistics are going to say that Penn State's going to lose this game. It's going to be double digits, might even be 20 or 30 points because they're so bad. But then they took Michigan right to the brink of almost beating them. So the Nittany Lions are 0-4 against Big Ten opponents, as we said, and they have an 0-1 record in games decided by 3 points or fewer. Obviously, that was the 74-72 loss. Right now, Purdue's averaging 9.5 made three-pointers per game this season, and is only 0.7 more made shots on average than Penn State, who's 8.8. So they shoot some threes too. And that's a little bit. Penn State averages 7.5, right? Made three-pointers per game this season, which is 0.6 fewer makes per game than Purdue gives up. So that's kind of the give and take just a little bit there. This is the first meeting of them between this season and in conference play this year, obviously, too. Part of the 20-game season conference schedule. And Purdue's now 4-0 with 16 games to go. Are they going to go 16-0? I'm going to say yes. But in reality, we know there's going to be some heartbreak in there. I think 2 losses is a possibility. 1 is a possibility. Obviously, they go undefeated, they win the league. They lose 1, they probably win the league. They lose 2, they probably win the league. But they got a tough schedule, and these teams are some of them are a lot better. Nebraska came out of nowhere, so kind of interesting to see. All right, so who are some of the top performers lately for Purdue and what to expect tomorrow in the Purdue game? Well, Fletcher Loyer. Fletcher Loyer's 13.8 points, even though he had kind of a rough game the last one. He's been playing pretty decent. He's not been shooting his greatest. We all know that, but Fletch will come around. Trey Coffin-Wren is averaging 13 points and 9 rebounds over his last 10 games, so almost a double-double machine. And Caden Mingo for Penn State's been averaging 15 and 5 with 2.5 steals for the Nittany Lions. So Purdue's 9-1 over their last 10 with 86 points a game, 36 rebounds, 21 assists, and 6.5 steals. Wow, while shooting 53% from the field. Their opponents have averaged just 64 points during that time frame. And really, there's only been one game they gave up more than, 60, right? And that was the last game. Nittany Lions are 4-6 in their last 10, averaging 75 points a game, and they're giving up 78 points a game. So their defense isn't as good. Their offense isn't too bad, 75.5. Let's take a look at some of the numbers for KenPom on them real quick here. I think I've got them right in front of me. They are, where are they? Penn State. Penn State is somewhere, I believe, just there they are. They're 110th overall. 110th overall out of how many teams are there? I keep throwing the number 300. It's 365 teams, and they are 110th. There we go. Penn State, 110th. They are 87th on offense and 146th on defense. So the defense isn't that strong. The offense isn't that bad, top 100. But for them, that puts them pretty much at the bottom of the Big Ten, right? That doesn't mean they can't play, though. They got some players, and they can do some damage. So there's something to keep in mind there if you're a big Purdue fan and what might be happening tomorrow with them. Game time, 2 o'clock. I think it's on the Big Ten Network. Usually sometimes I can get that streamed on YouTube or something from somebody. So one of those things that you'll run into this time of the year with that is because I don't stream, and it does say Big Ten Network on here, is some people will have them on YouTube actual live, and we'll have to see how that goes. See what the Gamecast shows here. Yeah, Fletch is at 13.8. Braden's got 9.5 assists. He actually went down about a tenth of an assist from the last game because he only got 7. But remember, he was in foul trouble. He still scored 23 points. He does whatever you need. They needed him to score points. He was going after it. He got points. Trey got his 14 and 14, his double-double. All the guys played pretty good the last game. Shooting was well. Of course, they were at home. People are complaining about the way the game kind of ended for them. And I've got a little highlight here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So I'm getting smarter when I see things. I start to take a picture of them at least so I know what's going on. First off, in the Bart Torvik ratings, in the past month, Purdue is the number 1 team in the country. The number 1 team in the country in the past month. They're better than Michigan, better than Arizona, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Connecticut, Nebraska, Illinois, Iowa, and Indiana. Indiana in the top 10. That's how the top 10 rates out. They are in this rankings. They are number 5 adjusted offense. This is just in the last month since December 7th. And adjusted defense, they're 4th. They're 4th in adjusted defense. I thought everybody said they didn't have a defense. That's why their defense has gone up to number 14 or 15 for the entire season because they've been playing so well lately. But besides that, they sent out somebody, can't remember who sent it out. You guys, if you're on Twitter, you'll know who sent this out. I can't remember off the top of my head. But this is, you know how the ladies play in quarters? So this was broken down in basically 10 minutes. So it's kind of like 4 quarters that it's broke it down. And it's the plus and minuses how Purdue played over the season so far. But what I see is distinct is in all these games that they have, and they are 14-1 right now. So in 15 games, only twice did they lose the first 10 minutes of the season so far. And then in the second, which would be the 10-minute mark to the halftime mark, they only lost 3 times out of 15. And one time they tied. And some of these, especially that point right there, that 10 minutes to the half mark, they got a plus 13, a plus 21, a plus 21, plus 17, a plus 10, right? So they're like 107. And then they come out in the second half and they run you over too. Only twice have they been on the losing end of that. And out of 15 games, and there's a plus 21, a plus 7, a plus 25, plus 15, plus 15. So point-wise, from the 10-minute mark to the half, they kind of take over. And then from the half to the 10-minute mark, they take over also. And then it gets to the last 10 minutes. And so for everybody who's been complaining, we're not complaining at all, guys, on the team. You're winning. That's all we care about. but it's just something to look at, and maybe you can try to tighten up, right? Out of the 15 games, one, two, three, four, five, six times they were outscored in the last 10 minutes, and one time it was a tie. And there are no double digit extensions in the last 10 minutes anywhere. They're all single digits. So that means they're either tiring or in some cases they're putting in the guys off the bench and the guys the walk-ons are getting some time that we love. That means they've got a big lead in some of these. For instance, they were +1 against who is this? Eastern Illinois, but they were +47 total, right? They won the game by 47 points. But in the last 10 minutes with the guys in there and the guys off the bench and the walk-ons and all that getting some play time, they still were positive. That's great. What's the one bad game when you go through the entire thing? It's Iowa State. They won the first 10 minutes by 2 points, and then they lost by 6, lost by 14, lost by 5. So they lost all 3 of the quarters after that to lose the game by -23, of course. Um, and that is an anomaly. That happens to every team at least once a year, probably, sometimes 2 or 3 times, and it may still happen again. So don't be surprised. The Big Ten schedule is tough. It's going to be hard to win the Big Ten schedule. All right. And Purdue's ratings on KenPom before the game were 33.53 was their net rating, and then they were 13-1, and they were first and 16th in the nation. Now they are first and 15th defensive wise, and their rating dropped a little to 32.93, which is still very good, historic. But you got 2 or 3 teams out there that are on a pace and are doing things that are crazy, like Michigan. Michigan's rating actually dropped a bit. They're still number 1 overall, but they're 37.44 for their net rating for the season, and I think they were in the 38s for a while there. So, and it adjusts by every game, and also adjusts slightly based on other games that are going on. That's KenPom on that front. So that's pretty interesting on the KenPom front, and some of the numbers that Purdue is going through. The men's basketball, women's basketball won last night. The men are going to play tomorrow, and so that's why we talked a little bit about that. What else is going on in the neighborhood? Well, let's take a look at what's been going on. Obviously, a turbulent week, right? A series of weather shifts have been underway, and we started with some overnight storms last night. Not much for thunder-wise, at least most of us, but definitely big high winds, almost exactly like I talked about it yesterday, timing-wise. Picked up right when it did what it was supposed to, which was a slow increase during the day. Big winds overnight. Big winds again this morning after a little lull. A lull is from 30 down to 20, right? And now we're packed back up, and this won't last very long. It'll start to dry off and move away, or kind of decrease in intensity. There were some wind peak gusts of 70 miles an hour in the state, and it drops our temperatures from 62 to 39, creating a windy, chilly feel out there, depending on where you're at in the state, right? So, again, a light dusting of snow might be expected by the weekend, but that's Saturday night into Sunday morning, and it's going to be very hit and miss. There's not much out there. Isolated chance for a half to an inch of snow. Residents are advised to secure outdoor items. We already talked about that. It was yesterday. Still windy today. If it hasn't blown away yet, it probably won't, because the winds will slowly die as the day goes down. No major damage reported as of yet, but I'm sure there are some leaves, trees down and some tree limbs down. I just haven't seen any information about it yet. Easily something we could miss on that front. You can find out more information on down things and information. I think Tippecanoe County has some information on that. Obviously, WLFI and Star News, and you might find something on the Journal and Courier. Again, our local news sources that are there can do some good stuff for us. All right, so keep that in mind on that front. What else happened? Well, here's something I did not talk about so far this week, and it happened a few days ago already. Representative Jim Baird and his wife were hospitalized after a car crash, and it was a vehicle accident. It was earlier in the week. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. I heard something about it just vaguely. It didn't hit major news, although I believe the president said something about it in a speech on Monday or Tuesday. Both of them were transported to local hospital here in Indiana. Evaluation treatment of non-life-threatening injuries. That's good. Their crash occurred on a rural road in the district, with weather conditions possibly contributing to what happened. So they released a statement thanking first responders and assuring constituents of a full recovery. Updates on their conditions are expected pretty soon, and it looks like there's no impact on his congressional duties. So Jim Baird and his wife, we look for some blessings there from them as they recover through their time frame. Here's something that happened, I think it was overnight. Officers were called to a local apartment complex following reports of gunfire late last night. No injuries were reported, but shell casings were found at the scene, indicating multiple shots fired, obviously, right? Witnesses described hearing arguments prior to the incident and possibly related to a domestic dispute. Ah, man, put the guns away, guys. Police are reviewing surveillance footage and interviewing residents as the investigation continues, and community leaders urge anyone with information to come forward to help maintain neighborhood safety. Right, and the big source on that one's WLFI. I think you can find that straight up. Let me see if they got the. Do they have that story right on their front page? They probably do. I don't see it at the top. There it is. Yeah, it's on their front page. So they got some details on that if you're wanting to look and see what that is. Probably a lot of the exact same things I just told you. Um, let's see. It was in the Burberry Apartments. Oh, this is from yesterday still, a couple days ago, so that's a different report. But, it does look like, that happened last night, and we'll have to keep an eye on that and see what happens, locally for that and what can happen for people, as they get into that, and you get in an argument with somebody, just leave it alone, right? Just go on about your business. You gotta pull a gun out or jump out of your car or go after somebody, alright. So, we, talked earlier in the week about the first baby that popped up last year or last week on January 1st. That was pretty cool. Those folks got a nice basket at Franciscan. That's where it was, and it was like 5 minutes after midnight on January 1st. Also, we talked a little bit this week about a local man who'd been charged with child sex offenses in both Tippecanoe and Clinton counties, and the crimes involved allegations of exploitation and inappropriate conduct with minors. It followed a joint investigation by local enforcement agencies, the arrest did. So he's currently held in custody awaiting court proceedings and bond hearings. And authorities emphasize the importance of reporting suspicious activities to protect vulnerable community members. So, and that's stories in the JC Online on there for you. You'll be able to find that there. We talked about Washington already and the game earlier this week that Purdue won. And a lady died in a one car accident earlier in the week on Monday. It took a day or two to find out who she was. She was only 29 years old. So hopefully the family is getting through that well. Here's something that did get by me. I don't know if it's been in the news or if it just came on the news today. City Bus announces fare increases for Greater Lafayette riders, and this is on WL5. Starting this year, fares for city bus services will rise to cover operational costs and improvements. Changes affect single rides, passes, and special programs with notices sent to regular users. So if you use them pretty consistently or a monthly, you get a card or a pass, they're going to let you know what the changes are. The increase aims to fund route expansions and better accessibility features. So they're obviously the city's growing. They're going to try to expand out their routes to different places and make it easier for you to get in and out and have the accessibility to it. Riders are encouraged to explore discount options for students, seniors, and low-income families. Now I'm a senior. I'm looking at all that stuff when I can get a little bit of money off to save things, especially the way the economy's been the last 5 years, how rough it was a few years ago. Seems to be kind of steadying itself off now since Trump has come in a little bit better, not going up nearly as fast. They are having some public feedback sessions are planned to address the concerns and gather some input on that. I'm not sure when that's going to be. Let's see if we can find it. Da, 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 da. So sometimes when I get some of these and I get these information and I get it off of a different place and then I go to the website to find it, I can't find it, although it's there somewhere, right? um, Nope, not there. Well, I mean, I can't see it. It's just I just haven't found it. But you keep looking for it. You'll find it there. Go do your due diligence to look up some of the information that I talk about on a weekly basis or on a daily basis. So bus fares going up, unfortunately, for some of us if you're riding the buses. Did you know that local reactions to U.S. Operating and capturing Venezuelan President Maduro are on Star City? That's where you'll find that. The Indiana federal lawmakers praised the U.S. arrest of Nicolas Maduro as a step towards justice. That's what a lot of our Indiana federal lawmakers said. Residents expressed mixed views, which is to be expected, with some very concerned about international repercussions and what we had done. The operation involved coordinated efforts to detain the Venezuelan leader on charges, and that was late Friday night, Saturday morning, like 2 or 3 in the morning their time. They went in there and got him. Discussions highlight impacts on immigration, trade, and global politics for Hoosiers. I'm seeing a lot of that on Facebook, people talking about different things. On Twitter, seeing a lot of the Twitter side where people are talking about it. And again, it seems like you're either one-sided or the other. You either think it's awful or you think it's a good thing and there's no problems. And it leans towards whoever the president is. So I can see this happening exactly with President Biden, and it would be exactly flip-flopped of who thought what. Isn't that funny? It's not funny in a way, but it tells me that people are so locked into what they are and ingrained into what they believe, they don't care what they see in front of them. And I'm not saying who's right or who's wrong in this. I'm saying that this happens on both sides, and it doesn't matter who the president is. Um, if it's Biden, they'd flip flop and they'd say something else, and it would be just that way, and that's how it would work out. So when I do kind of flip through the scenes and I go through Twitter at times because I can get some good information that way. Um, They've got new surveillance footage and views of what happened in, like, that shooting the other day, at the, and it's pretty clear that the lady accelerated into the guy. Now, whether she hit him, it's hard to say whether it hit his leg or not as he was trying to get out of the way and shoot her at the same time. Um, but unfortunately, this guy had been dragged before, which is weird. So you gotta in a 1 second instance of trying to figure out what to do, you can see where his mindset was, "Hey, I gotta cover this," right? So it's hard to see. But so there's more sides coming out of there. And this again is exactly what we talked about yesterday. We talked about this pretty extensively. It seems to be that if you're on one side of the aisle, you think this is the worst thing in the world, and if you're on another side of the aisle, you think this is fine. I'm trying to look at it as just a perspective as a police officer, what they're allowed to do, what he might have been thinking, what does it look like. Um, People are worried about what she was doing before, what he was doing before, all these different things. I'm looking at the action as it happens, and it appears to me that it looks like maybe she's not trying to run him over, but she's trying to get out of there. But he was right in front of the car, so right in front of the driver's side too, and she accelerates very quickly, and then he shoots at her and he kills her. So we'll have to see what kind of more responses we see today. There were definitely people maybe not thrown well they were kind of attacking police yesterday. I saw a video of one-sided video on X that said, look at what this cop is doing to this guy, and it looks like this cop is trying to not beat the guy, but he's hitting on him, and then he gets away from him. But then you go to the actual video, which is longer, and what you find out is the guy grabbed the cop's gun. Okay, so what are you to expect if the guy comes and grabs the guy's gun, right? So those are the kind of things you're getting half the stories a lot of times, and it's the half the view of whatever the person wants that wants to tell you something. So that's kind of how that's working when you go through those fronts and what you see. Take it with a grain of salt. Wait 24 to 48 hours. Go through all your data, try to figure out what you're seeing and what you're not seeing, and then make your decisions of what's going on. Right. So uh, here's this is just a random one that came out from yesterday that was on X, and it says important notes. The ICE agent in question was filming. The footage better not disappear. Obviously, that's true if he's got it. I don't know whether he was fully, if he had already stopped it or not, but it does look like he's got some. So I'm sure they have that, but you notice that's the one that hasn't come out yet. So we'll have to see what that says. It says the driver was not blocking, was waving for traffic to go by. That is not what was said in the audio, though. I believe there was some audio that said her and her wife were trying to stop and disrupt. Um, she made a bad decision by backing up and then flooring it to get out of there. She did wave a couple cars through before, though. That is obvious. I can see that too. So, but her reverse lights obviously come on. And then she clearly hits it hard and moves. And then he says the agent pulled the gun before she moved. That is not correct. If you look at it, it's very close. She starts to move, he's yanking it out. So either way, he's supposed to pull it out if she's moving backwards. He's thinking she's trying to get out of there, so he's gonna pull the weapon at some time. And when he's thinking he's gonna get run over, that's what's happened. Um, and then it says agent's feet are clearly planted beside the car. Yes, he's trying to get out of the way as he's trying to shoot her at the same time. What's he supposed to do? Stand there and just shoot at her or let her run him over? Is that what you really would have wanted? Or is he trying to get away as he's doing it? I can see both sides some of this stuff here, but as you can see, very tainted to one direction on this one. And then you can go to the other side and you can find the same thing. Let me see if I can find another one somewhere. And it says things like, well, he was standing right in front and she floored it, like I've said, right? So just depends on where you're at and what your mindset is, what you're thinking. This shouldn't even be political. It shouldn't. It shouldn't have never happened. She should have just moved out of there. But you never hear her say, actually, it sounds like I believe I've heard a version where she cusses at them and yells at them. And then that's when the incident happens. She backs up and the one guy is yelling at her and he's cussing at her, trying to get into the door. And she's panicked, maybe, but she floored it and the incident happened. So it's kind of how things happen in that case. It could happen. It's happened before. It'll probably happen again. Uh, and it seems like no matter what you do in this situation, you're going to be on the wrong side because the other side believes the other thing or something else, right? So I don't care which side you're on, the other side believes you're wrong. Right? But it does seem like statistically we're at like a 66% of people believe that the officer was in the right at this point. And the rest of you are going to go, no, it isn't. But that's because you're watching the 33%. Okay. Generally speaking, looking at a lot of information so far, it seems like most people are in agreement that he was in the right and he was okay to do that. Um, I don't think I would have done it that way. I think I would have tried to step out of the way and get out of the way. Um, excuse me, sorry about that. And see what happens down the road. But he had been in a situation where he had been dragged 100 yards before just 6 months ago, back in June. So 7, 8 months ago, give or take. And you don't know what he's going through and what he's thinking, just like you don't know what she's thinking at that point either. She's had some heartaches in her life. I believe she lost her husband. What was it, a couple years ago? Didn't say why. I'm not sure on the deals on that one, but you can see what we're talking about on that. So, and you can see a little bit from both sides. Uh, Remember, all kinds of different things are happening. There's all kinds of videos coming out on that, and we're still now it's not even 48 hours. So we're getting to that point where hopefully you've dragged in enough information to figure it out on your own, what you want to do, and it'll come down to that point. Um, a lot of these are from yesterday still, nothing really new updating this morning I see for videos on that front. And there's a lot of big news besides that now, and, we'll probably move on from that. That may be the last time I talk about it today, but we'll see if something new comes out, like this new surveillance that comes out from CNN, and you can clearly see him, walk in front of the vehicle, her jam it, and then her looking like she brushes and hits his left leg as he's trying to get out of the way. Um, but it's not clear enough to tell. So, does it matter if she hit him or not? Or does it matter more that, um, it looks like she is trying to run him over? It's hard to say. What would your decision? My decision would have been maybe to pull the gun out but not shoot. But then again, because my other fellow officer's trying to stop her and she's not moving. But everybody walked up without you pulling their guns out until the car moved. Then the car moved and then somebody pulled their gun out. What did you expect? So it is a weapon. It is assumed that it can be used as a deadly weapon because it has been many times. Uh, it says, and this is from CNN. Good backs the car up. It places the officer in front of her and would give him very good reason to believe she was aiming at him as the car guns forward. That was from CNN. So there now you're starting to get uh the mainstream media is actually kind of locking up with the other side a little bit. They're seeing the footage. It's quite clear that the officer did not walk up to the front of the car. He walked in front. He came around to the front and she backed up and that put him obviously straight in front of it or straight in front of her. And it says it places him in front and would give him very good reason to believe she was aiming at him as the car guns forward. And so there you go. At least on that, CNN's coming online, seeing the video and starting to change their tune of what they first did because the first immediate reactions from the mainstream media was, "This is awful. It's a murder." And the first reactions from Fox News and the people on the right was, "No, this is fine. There's no big deal." Not fine. They don't mean it that way. They just mean he was okay to do that because he thought his life was being threatened and by the car that might run him over. And that has happened before. Now CNN is starting to shift gears and come this way, and they did that last night. They started doing that. So uh, what is this guy's name? The guy with the white hair. You guys remember his name? I can't think of his name, but he's the main anchor on CNN, and he's been there for decades. And so he finally is saying it looks like you would think that that would happen. Um, but am I getting half the story on that too? I'm sure he hopefully he showed both sides of it in his story why they were doing it, and that's what they're supposed to do. Show us all the angles, show us what both sides are thinking, and don't lean one way or the other. Unfortunately, Fox leans one way, mainstream media leads the other, and the mainstream media has been in power ever since I've known. My wife and I were talking about it last night. We didn't realize in the 80s and 90s we were being manipulated like we were being manipulated, getting only some of the story and what they wanted us to hear. Now, because of the internet, because of social media, because of all that, a lot of us realize we were being manipulated 20, 30, 40 years ago by the mainstream media. We just didn't know it. We trusted it back then. Now nobody trusts any of it. That's why you need to do your due diligence and not make snap decisions in what you're seeing. I don't know which way is the right or wrong in this thing. I know I kind of lean towards the officer's okay, but still, we lost a woman. That's awful. That's awful. And I can easily see her side of it, her family, the kids, um, the woman who was distraught that's supposed to be her wife, who was filming this. Now, why was she filming this? Why did she get out of the car to film her wife blocking the street? And that's what she did. She got out and did that. And she even said it was her fault for putting her in there in that spot. And some of the woman's family has said, why was she there doing that? She shouldn't have been doing it. And now some of the woman's family is also saying the officer was awful and they never should have happened. Definitely never should have happened. It would be nice if it didn't. Um, when you're going to go out there and protest and do things like that, you should be civil, right? People want protesting. There's nothing wrong with protesting, but don't trash any place. When you trash the Capitol, you're going to be in trouble. You should be in trouble. You should go to jail. When you trash Minneapolis after George Floyd, you should get in trouble, but nobody did. Hardly nobody did, but they did millions upon billions of dollars of damage across the country. Hardly nobody got in trouble, right? But the January 6th people did, didn't they? They went after them because it was a political thing. All right. But the political thing on the other side, they're not going to go after anybody. And the Republicans are too timid to do any of that. They won't go after. So when President Trump comes and he acts like a Democrat, the Democrats don't like it. And unfortunately, most of your Democrat politicians are pretty mean spirited. That being said, they're trying to get something for their people. I understand that part too. So you can see all the dominoes here and all the things in the Jenga machine where you pull a few of them out, then they all become the same, right? And realistically, your Republicans and your Democrats are the same. One's a little more mean spirited, but the other one could be just as mean spirited at times, just doesn't do it as often. But they're both awful. They don't seem to be helping for us, right? And that's what we want is stuff for us. They're supposed to be doing things for us. And it never seems like that. They're just doing stuff for their side. And why do they all get rich? Why do they all have money? Why do they all none of them come out, with their salaries and are moved back into a 1,300 square foot house on an acre here in Lafayette, right? That doesn't happen. They move into big old houses and they have tons of money because they are given money. And they all seem to fall in line, or at least most of them, 90% of them anyway. All right. So that's how that works. Power. When you get power, you don't want to lose it. That's why they hang on into their 90s a lot of times when they shouldn't be there anymore. Um, the Democrats have a couple like that, and the Republicans have a couple like that. I'm not even sure if they can think on a daily basis, and that's not good. Feinstein was the one that comes to my mind last year or the year before when she passed away. I'm not sure if she even knew what was going on, but they were trotting her out there, and that's a shame. She should have been with her family um, in those last times and days. And some of the McConnell's right now, he seems like he shouldn't be there either. He's too old. Where President Trump is what 80 or closing in on 80, and he's moving around like he's a 60-year-old or a 50-year-old. So he's got the energy. President Biden, you could see it. He got worse and worse as he went through his presidency. But one side didn't want to see it because that's their guy. Okay. Now watch. It'll slowly come out. Oh yeah, we saw it. We knew it, but we didn't want Trump. Okay. Okay. Whatever. All right. It's just past the top of the hour. I'm gonna go back and do some weather here real quick, as I normally do at the tops of most of the hours, and give you a little bit of an in-depth see of what has changed and what has not changed. And we'll try to see where everything is heading in the next couple of days. And then I'll go through a little bit more of the uh, extended forecast too. And you're going to see this here more than you'll see it anywhere else. I'll get into a lot more. First, I usually like to start off with just what the current weather is. It's obviously very windy. Sustained winds are 22 miles an hour. Over at the airport, it's 43 degrees. It was 63 last night, somewhere around midnight. Either side of it, it was hovering in that range. And so very warm temperatures as expected. The high came then and it's falling and it'll be steady this afternoon and during the day, somewhere around that 43 mark, give or a couple degrees either direction and depending on where you're at. And we still do have a wind advisory in effect for another hour. This is good news though, because the winds were like 30 2 hours ago still. And they got as high as 70 in the state miles an hour. I saw gusts at the Lafayette airport as high as 38, which is like 45. Different places had stuff that were higher a wind gust, but locally, that's what I saw. I'd have to go back and look at some of the data to see what it was. Let's see if we can get some hourly stuff in here. And does it go back a little bit? It does go back. Here you go. Midnight, it was 62, and then the temperature started dropping around 6 a.m. It was still 59 degrees. There's the showers that went through around 2 a.m. Doesn't show any real thunder that came through with those, but it was there. And what are the details on that? And here you go. Temperatures right now, 43. This is all the information. And then I like to go down and see what happens during the year and where we were. This chart, the dashed lines on the bottom here are your low temperatures on average. The dashed line here running across this is your high temperatures on average for this time of the year. Now we're in January, and here's today. And it shows the historical daily high, the average is 34. And historical daily low is 18 on averages. And so far, uh, our high was 60 something, obviously, right? So there you go. But it shows, see this big red here way above the average shows yesterday and today. And then it shows a drop off and then a little rebound. And then we're back to near normal temperatures in a couple days, very winter like, even some cold stuff middle of the week towards the end of January towards February, because this goes out that far. So this is what the model says is going to happen. This is the actual temperatures. We can see it was actually fairly cool in July and August for this time of the year. And then you see lots of ups and downs in the spring. That's very normal too. And then there's usually a secondary up and down in the fall. We saw that. And there was, remember, middle December, early December, it was very cold. That one day we got to -6 for like a low temperature. It shows -4 on this one, maybe out at the airport. So just depends on where you were. That was December 14th, very cold day that morning. So this chart shows that. I kind of like that. Gives you an idea of what has been and hasn't been happening. And you notice we have not been overly warm. We've actually been a little chillier than if anything for the year. And we've been in a drought off and on for probably a decade, it seems like. Most of that period, we've been not in any type of flood conditions of worries of extra rain. We've been in a drought or slightly below drought conditions, below normal, just in that level. So that's what Lafayette has been seeing, at least for a while. We look around the state right now, we see temperatures 43 degrees in Lafayette. You go back an hour, it was 46. Go back a couple hours, you can see the 60, 61. Let's come back to now real quick and see if we can get a few readings out towards the west. They're still in the 40s in western Illinois, and the pocket of cold is way out in Iowa. It's going to take 24 to 36 hours to fully get in here by Sunday morning before we really see temperatures back in the 20s and 30s, which is what we normally would see this time of the year. Even 43 is a little bit above normal. So something to keep a thought about there. Here's your satellite picture. Lafayette is right here in this spot. I'll try to put the cursor on it, right where the river and the highway cross right there in Indiana. You'll see a lot of the high clouds moving off to the east away from us. That's where the showers were. The cold front kind of extends from the low up here back down and around just past us, and all the rain is now off towards the east. These are just high clouds enhanced, then some mid clouds you're starting to see here, and you can see some of the low clouds spinning around the backside. And I even see some open territory back in here, especially back down towards Oklahoma and Kansas. A lot of clouds still back left in Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana on the lower sides. And we'll see what happens with this little area up here to the north. And as it pushes this direction, you can kind of extend your line down. You can almost see it right there, right down through this area here. Boom, boom, boom. And as that pushes through, will we get some, a light sprinkle or a shower here or there? It's a possibility. And then we'll cover that here in a little bit. But that's what the local satellite looks like. And the radar shows all the rain having moved off. Maybe a few of those little light sprinkles up near Lake Michigan are showing. And and then you can see kind of where the fronts are and where they have been. This is, let's see, 14Z on this one. That's where things are right now, basically. And they haven't updated to get a new one yet, but it shows the frontal system back here, but it's pretty much right up here. You can see it's already past us. Temperatures made a distinct drop from the upper 50s, 59, into the lower 40s at 43, where we are now. So the front is somewhere in between there, plus the direction changes of the winds. You notice the direction change. Due west here, and you're more southwest here, and even southerly over here. So the front is somewhere right in there. And you can see the isotherms go right along with that. And the iso bars, which are the black lines, they kink right probably where the cold front is. And the isotherms are these dash lines that are moving up and down. That shows you the temperature difference. And where that strong temperature difference usually is where the cold front is, somewhere right in that area. So yeah, you take all of those into a factor to figure out where it is. But the reality is the front is either on us or moving past us already. It's got gusty winds with it for another hour. They still have an advisory out, something to keep in mind on that. I think I've got to look at that somewhere. Where's that at? Oh, we go back to that first one. And that shows where the entire state pretty much is in some kind of wind advisory. And Lafayette's right there in the middle of that. But that dies away at 11 o'clock. So the winds have already started to dissipate. They're going down in different places. Over in Champaign, it's only 15 knots. It's 10 knots over in Decatur, Springfield area. St. Louis is down 10, 15 knots. Even a couple spots in Indiana are still now down to 10, in between the systems especially. Oh, that's the 8th. No wonder why that looks like that. 25 still locally. There we go. There's the 10 in Decatur and the 15 in the middle of the state of Springfield, that area. And back there, you see the winds are much, much less. But around these real tight kinks, you see 20, 25, where these black lines are really close to each other. It's usually very windy in there, and that's what you're seeing. That's why the wind advisories have been out all night and through the morning this morning. So there's been a lot, at least on that front. Let's go see what the models are showing. And where did my models go? That's the one I probably clicked on and lost. That's what it is. So let's go back to the models. Let's go to the HER. Okay, remember the HER updates every 6 hours. It will go out a 36-hour period. But every hour, it goes out 18 hours. So that's the high resolution rapid refresh that it does. So we get updates. I like the 12Z runs because it's the big one and it goes out farther and you can see more. And we can see some of the precipitation. So it extends and it shows the snow out for tomorrow night into Sunday. It doesn't show a lot of snow, but you can see the waves that'll be an annoyance. It looks like overnight tomorrow night in the local area. And then it shows what's happening today and what's going to be happening. So here we are Friday morning. The front has already moved out to our east. We've got the rain to the north. This is about noon time frame. So let's go back a couple hours there. And it fits pretty well with what we just saw on the radar, right? And it just shows most of the light precipitation stays north. And there's a chance for some sprinkles, which fit with that cloud cover. Remember the cloud cover that was there? Remember the clouds back here? And you can kind of see the line back here. They get less of them. And so in this thick area here is where you could get a little bit of a light sprinkle or a shower. And as that moves through over the next couple of hours is where we could see that. Drag this one over here so I've got it in the right spot. That makes it easier. We can see it. Kind of goes by, a few sprinkles here or there, cloudiness, maybe another chance into the evening hours, just some gloomy clouds and cover. And then the system, the front went by, and there's a low pressure system down to the south, which is pulling up some moisture, and another low pressure system to the north, which is off the charts, and extends down and has this blanket of showers and some light snow off to our west tonight into tomorrow morning. And that brings in the rain chances by about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. It may rain for a few hours there. It looks like the snow stays to the north right now, but any small adjustments southerly, and we might get a little bit of light snow mixed in with the rain tomorrow morning. And the temperatures are still good. They'll be in the 30s, mid to upper 30s by that time frame. And then that goes through, and by about, let's see, this is 9 o'clock tomorrow night, Here we go. We got a first little wave of snow coming through. Let's call it 8 to 9, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. A little wave of light snow, then maybe a little stop, then another wave every couple hours or so, and not a lot of precipitation amounts with that. The total snow accumulations in streaks, you'll get a half. That shows Crawfordsville at a half, us at like 1/10 of an inch. But you notice you can see it's in streaks. And I don't care how good the model is, it's not going to be able to hit a 10-mile wide streak very well. So expect anything from a dusting to maybe a half an inch for most of us overnight Saturday into Sunday morning. Not a very strong system, not a lot with it. And temperature wise, watch what happens with your temperatures. Here we are. There we are at the end. Now we're down into the 20s, even some teens showing up Saturday morning. So the cold is there. But remember, during the day tomorrow, I was talking about it was just too warm for the rain. And even the snow up to the north, and 37s and 35s may not fall to the ground. So mostly rain tomorrow. And then here's our temperatures, which were much warmer earlier. Here we were at like 7 o'clock. We were still mid 50s. We were right where the front. You can draw the front right in there, can't you? Pretty easily. You can see where the difference is in the temperatures and where the peak is, with the front being in the back side of that. So there it was just to our west. It crosses past us, and here we are at about 11 o'clock this morning, which is just in a little bit. And it does show temperatures right at 43. So it's pretty close this morning. Maybe says we crawl back up to 46 this afternoon. And then the winds die down, which is good. You can see wind barbs here also. They tell us wind speeds. And on this model here at the College of DuPage model, when you run over the cursor, it can tell you what you are going to get at that time frame. So 02 Zulu is 9 o'clock tonight, and that would be 42 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly, in where the cursor is placed, 7 knots of wind out of the direction of 33 degrees, which is northeast. We work with fromies in weather. Winds are coming from the northeast at 33 degrees at 7 knots. So the wind chill will be about 35 at that time frame. And then as you move around, it'll show you different places, like down here in Tennessee, it'll be 55, and up north, you're going to see 30 degrees with 4 knots of wind. Okay. So kind of nondescript weather pattern, but that little rain moves through tomorrow, and you'll see the temperatures still hovering good enough in the low 40s to 30s, upper 30s to support rain more than snow at this point. But then the cold air moves in tomorrow night, and as that next little wave that was right here that was going to come across streaks through, you notice your temperatures drop into the 20s. So then your chance to hold, and you notice the winds are on streaks too, right? So your chances for this to fall as snow are much better Saturday night into Sunday morning, just not a lot of accumulation. Now with the wet roads out there already, um, and the potential for the snow on top of it, you're still going to have to watch out for some icy conditions Sunday morning. Just to be safe, we'll have to keep an eye on that one for sure. Locally, you pop back out to the observations. Let's go to the actual station plots. We go to Indiana. You can kind of see what's happening right now. Look at what's going around the state pretty easily. Grissom, Gus over here, 46. And you'll use different versions of this. I showed some other station plots earlier. Let's see the raw METARs, and you go to Indiana, you can see them here, right? And then you can go to product menus and change it to the decoded observations, which puts everything in line so you can read it. And these are all your cities in Indiana, Lafayette being right here, going across here. And Lafayette, what this basically says now is temperature's 45, dew point is 38, winds are out of 270 at 18, so we're still a little almost due west at 18 knots, which is about 20, 22 miles an hour. And we are 2,000 foot overcast on the clouds. So that's more aviation, but at least you know where it is. The only place it's raining is GYY, and I actually do not know what is that. Gary? That's Gary, probably. Right there. A little light rain. Remember, we were talking about that to the north, and they have winds out of the northeast now, 300 degrees at 15. So that wind's coming off the lake with low clouds. They're getting a little bit of light rain up there. So they have more precipitation up there, and they have more moisture up there right now. Highest gusts or highest wind right now is 25. I see there. Everybody's doing pretty good. Fort Wayne's at 25. They're closer to where the front is, but everybody's starting to die down, right? Starting to die down on this. So that's several different ways you can look at it. I like the state where I can look at stuff and what's happening sometimes this way, and sometimes I just like it where you can look at the state itself and the station plots on the state, whichever one you're looking at, because this shows me the winds and I can pinpoint where I think the front is in different places when I look at this kind of data. And you can do that too by going to the uh, College of DuPage weather page, and you'll get into you want to go to the weather data, click on top, and you can get satellite radar, numerical models, and you can get some analysis data and figure out what the models are saying and what you wanting to go through. It gives you pictures like this. Um, and there's your radar, shows the rain moving off, and a little bit of that stuff up here near Gary right now. That's what's being reported as light rain right there. So you can see that. That's about where Gary's airport is, somewhere right up there. And there's just so much stuff and information that you can get off of there that is so good for a weather forecaster, and what they can enjoy and what they can go through. Me, obviously, I've wanted to do this since I was 12, so any information, I just kinda grab onto it, and I've gotten so used to looking at stuff so quickly now, where I remember 40 years ago when I started, it was a lot longer, plus it was harder to do because we plotted our own charts. We plotted our own charts based on this data right here. And then we would find our cold fronts, our warm fronts. Where are they? How are they going to affect us? What are they going to do? We'd look at the big picture. What you're taught as a weatherman first, at least generally, this is what I was taught and what I taught my guys when I was teaching, was to look at the big picture first. Where's the jet stream? What is it doing? Right? I want to see where the clouds are, where the rain is. That we got to see what's happening right now to figure out what's going to happen in the future. And now we have the luxury of having good big time models that kind of tell us where things are going. And they've gotten better and better and better over my 40 years in the weather field. And they're pretty accurate. So when I go back to the HER and I look at it, and at different times, and I want to know what's going on. I know this is close. I'm now only making smaller and smaller changes to the models. For instance, like let's say it's 24 degrees out, but I know the skies are going to be sunny. And I know during the winter the model doesn't pick that up well. Well, I would go for a high of maybe 27, let's say. So I make small adjustments, and most of your weather forecasters and your meteorologists are doing that. But now it's much less than it used to be. Uh, Back in the 80s and 90s, you'd have to make 5 and 10 degree changes sometimes, just in temperature, or you might have to say it's going to rain when it shows it's not going to rain. So it just depends on what it is. But now the models are getting so good, and within 24 hours to 48 hours, we're about 90% of whatever we tell you pretty much hits. I know you only remember the 10% we missed, though. And we get a chuckle out of that too. Every time you say, hey, must be nice to have a job where you can be right 50% of the time and still keep it. Trust me, if there's a weather forecaster out there hitting 50%, he's not keeping his job. Trust me on that. If he's not hitting close to 90, he's probably going to be out of a job. So, and that doesn't matter whether he's on TV or if he's in research or if he's going to Antarctica like I did. We had standards that we have to meet. If you can't meet those standards, then you move on and they find somebody else, because it's a very important thing. Obviously, a lot of my career I was in aviation, so I did a lot of aviation forecasting for pilots and planes and things like that, and for boots on the ground. I did TV for a while, so I did 6 years of that where I was telling you exactly what was going to happen over at WLFI from 1997. I think my last show was the day after Thanksgiving, 2003. Chris Marissi called me up. She needed some help, and I came over and helped out. That was fun. I enjoyed that. Um, I'm loyal to the stations pretty much, and I put this out as much as I can. You need to watch WLFI, Star City. You need to watch and read the JC Online or the Journal and Courier because they are your local news. And if our local news falls apart, and they have made changes where the weather guys aren't here anymore and things like that, and they shoot some of the shows down in, I think it's Alabama for Star City, but they're local people, some of them, and they have some local reporters. If it gets worse than that, and we get to the point where there's no TV or newspaper in town, who's going to do that? Well, Indianapolis is going to do that. So you're going to get 1/10 of what's happening compared to what Star City, WLFI, and the JC Online can put out for you, the Journal and Courier, or your Purdue Exponent, even, or the Purdue News. Yes, you can get a lot of stuff on the internet, but there won't be reporters coming up from Indianapolis to Lafayette very often unless it's a huge story. So you're going to lose a lot of that. And I know a lot of us want to know what's going on locally, and I would love to hear from you about that too. So when we get to that point, that'd be great that we'll be able to do that. And hopefully you can just call in and tell me what you're thinking, right? You can call in and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about this, Brian. What should we do? and we'll get your opinions on here of what's going to be happening, right? So that's how we'll work that. Um, that was the weather again. Two times now we've gone through it. We'll do it again at 11 o'clock, probably 11:15, maybe 11:30 as we get towards the end of the show. And I just keep putting information out there for you, trying to be your hometown weather forecaster. I know Chad Evans is doing some stuff. Check him out too. And I'm not sure if Gary Seipel is it what's his first name? Gary Seipel is his last name. I love his last name because that goes with Antarctica, and the Seipel name down there is well known. And I've met him and talked to him, and he's a good guy, good weather forecaster too, good meteorologist. So if you see some information from him, check that out too. This isn't about me. This is about doing some stuff for you and a place for you to talk. And all the people around town, I'd love for you to check in on them. And I just want to be one of those people for you. All right. So that's kind of the way it works on this show. It's going to be about you. It's called Let's Talk Lafayette because I want Lafayette people to talk. Doesn't matter who it is. You can call in or right now chat. We're using chat and chat with me and talk with me. Currently, several of the days we've had 2 or 3 people on. Today we've had 1 so far. And this will grow. It'll get bigger and bigger. It's the first week. I figured out how to get on air a little bit easier. I figured out how to move back and forth from different things. I'm going to figure out how to do phone lines eventually so we can talk to each other. Um, and spread the word, folks. Just spread the word. Hey, the weatherman, the pastor from Innovation Church, who happens to be a meteorologist, is talking lots of weather, lots of sports, lots of local stuff, and he's getting into world stuff too. Exciting things. I haven't even touched on what happened yesterday in Russia when Russia sent in those ballistic missiles. And have you seen the videos of those? I'll have to find some of those on X and show them to you. Um, I mean, the missiles go. I mean, it's like a dart coming to the ground. They're so fast. There's no way you're stopping those. And so when we took the tankers a day or 2 ago, we of course we annoyed Putin and they stomped their feet and yelled a lot. But they were getting ready to take out some of their frustrations on Ukraine anyway, and they just went ahead and did it yesterday. So last night those missiles were raining down for the folks that not in Kiev, it was in Lviv or Lviv, which is out in the western portions of Ukraine. And those missiles come in so fast you can't stop them. And I don't know the damage yet, but I just saw some of the videos before I went to bed last night. Maybe you've seen it too. Get in the chat, let me know what you've seen, and I'll try to find some information on it as we go through it. I usually use the Daily Mail as one of mine, and they're showing the new video that came out about the shooting from what was happening as she was making her decisions of what she was going to do and where the officer was. And because they have a picture from the front, basically from somebody's camera at their house that was taken. So we'll have to see how that goes. Um, it does seem like, again, people are taking sides depending on what they believe politically, which is bad. Which is bad. If you believe you don't like the ICE officers, you're taking one side. If you like the ICE officers, you're taking the other. You're not focusing on what actually happened, some of us. And that's both sides that are doing that. And so that's not good, right? Um, things like Iran are being plunged into problems right now. You know, when you lose control of your people is when you turn the internet off. And Iran did that last night. Well, it would have been yesterday morning, their time frame. And he threatened Trump as Iran plunged itself into internet blackout amid swelling uprising. Now, there's some videos are still getting out. Fires in the streets, tens of thousands of people in every large city in Iran are out on the streets protesting. Now, we have protested in our country. The George Floyd ones ended up just like this with fires everywhere. They're protesting their policies, but their country is not as strong as ours, where our politics and our people can hang on when that kind of stuff happens. There in Iran, they're trying to actually make a coup and maybe take over for these guys. The Shahs and the Mullahs have been in there since 1979 and took the most vibrant country in the Middle East, Iran, most beautiful city possibly, Tehran, and turned it into, well, a hellhole, so to speak, where communism basically took over. Women don't have rights like they did before. People are out in the streets now. And it appears so far from what I'm hearing and seeing that the police and the military, some of them are now going to the people's side, where that didn't happen in the past. when they went into blackouts, they just started shooting people in the streets, and I'm sure that's exactly what's happening right now. Um, the leader Ali Khamenei, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, on Friday insisted that the Islamic Republic would not back down. See, that's how they do it. When you have power, that's what Moderno did in Venezuela. Uh, and he would go out and shoot people. Remember the vice president who took over when we took the president out of Venezuela? What was first thing she did in the first 24 hours? She sent troops out into the street and the cops, and they were running over people and trying to put down anybody who was protesting that she took over. And then on the backside, she talked to Trump and told him she'd do whatever he wanted. So, but she's still a communist too. So we have to think about that. They don't call themselves communists. They never do. They're always call themselves socialist, but they take over control and they never give it up. And Ayatollah Khomeini is doing that right now. He's trying to put his foot down on the people. All right. Okay. Here's some of that. I did find some of the videos. I think Russia unleashes terrifying hypersonic missiles. They're called the Oreshnik missile on Ukraine in revenge strike after claiming Kiev had targeted Putin's residence. That's what they argued happened yesterday or earlier in the week, that they had targeted Putin's own home, which is they're not. It's kind of the saying we don't do those kind of things, but they do at times. So I'm trying to see if I can find the actual video. Of course, they don't have the video up. But there are some pictures on it, and the story goes like this: Vladimir Putin unleashed his sinister nuclear capable 8,000. So these things can be nuclear tipped, right? Now they haven't put it on there, just sending in regular ordnance with it. It moves at 8,000 miles an hour, and in a strike on the outskirts of the Ukrainian city Lviv, Russia confirmed that also that they did that. So the menacing attack close to NATO and EU territory. It is close to Poland. Lviv is. It's way out in the western portion of Ukraine, not the eastern portion where most of the battles are going on. But there's factories and things out to the west that they're going after, and they've been attacking electricity. Oh, there we go. I got a scan that popped up. Sorry, I've been talking to you guys. See if we can go back and find it. Nope, it got rid of everything. All right. Hopefully I didn't get a virus when I did that. It did say I had a virus, so you guys let me know. So that's how that went. Where that's a little scary when you're talking to people and all of a sudden your screen says virus, virus, look out. So I'm back in the Daily Mail. Hopefully that's not what's going to be happening. Let me go back to that story and see if I can find it again. Okay, there. Okay, there was the Iran story. And then the Russia unleashes their Oreshnik missile, which moves at 8,000 miles an hour. They attacked Lviv, is where they attacked, and they've attacked there before. Trying to see what here is going on. And so when I pop these up, I'm not even sure if they're going to show up. I think they're going to show up. I should be able to show them. And we'll go back through it and we'll hit the timing on it. Let me see if I can switch over and show you guys what's actually happening. There we go. So this is in Lviv or just on the outskirts of Lviv, and you'll be able to see the missiles come in so quickly. Look at this. Boom, boom, the boom, boom. Look at that. That is not your ordinary ordnance coming in. That is moving 8,000 miles an hour. Here's some other pictures of just the flashes. There it is. Wow, look how fast they are coming in compared to your normal ordnance. Hence, they can't be shot down. At least they sure look like they can't be shot down at this point. They got to be shot down up in the upper atmosphere somewhere where they go to their height and come down from their trajectory so fast. So there it is. There's the pictures. I was able to, hopefully you were able to see that and see how that Oreshnik was fired at 8,000 miles an hour and the damage it did. Let me see if I can find some of the extraordinary speed initially fueled speculation online that Russia used an Oreshnik-type ballistic missile, which is pretty obvious now. But confirmation is not there. Well, you can see the speed, so I'm pretty sure you're talking Oreshnik, right? Could be another name, could be a version of it, something like that. However, the Russian Defense Ministry admitted to using the Oreshniks, claiming that it was in response to a Ukrainian bid to kill Putin with a strike on his palace in Volade, north of Moscow. Western intelligence and Ukraine are adamant there was no such strike. Now, could that be one of those like black op kind of things that Russia's trying to do to get farther into the war? It's hard to say. In response, Kiev's regime's terrorist attack on the residence of the president of the Russian Federation in Novgorod region on December 29th, they launched the massive strike against Lviv, including the Oreshnik medium range ground mobile missile system, as well as unmanned aerial vehicles. Remember, I've been telling you this thing's going to go all um, drone and unmanned vehicles and things like these missiles coming through and that kind of thing. And you're seeing it. I'm kind of surprised they haven't used more of these. I think they've just been trying to save them. But it's been what, 3 years? We're into this war. We're getting close to the 4 year mark because they went in 22, right? Under Biden's administration during that time frame when they really weren't afraid of him at all. Um, Now Trump's a big talker about stopping things, and he has done a great job on peace all over the world. But he hasn't been able to get this thing stopped yet. Although every time it looks like it's going to, somebody does something. So isn't that amazing? You watch these right before peace talks, almost in every place that you do it. Somebody fires a whole bunch of stuff right before it happens to get them out there. And I don't know whether they're just trying to eliminate some more people or whatever they're trying to do. Then they'll go into a ceasefire. Why do they do that? Why not just go into immediate ceasefire and stop at that point? Why kill more people? But that's just the pastor in me and the quiet guy in me. The Marine says, "Get them." All right. So the unstoppable Oreshnik system is now based close to Ukraine and NATO territories in Belarus. They don't have to be close to hit them, but because they do have a pretty good distance that they can go. And it takes less than 7 minutes to cover the 900-mile range to hit the target. Less than 7 minutes. And you saw how fast they came down in that video. So pro-Putin propaganda channel boasted that the power of the explosions were so great that they were felt by residents of the entire region. And they tried to hit the Stryy gas storage facilities, which were vital to Ukraine supplies and keeping power there for people, especially in midwinter. But initially, no one knows what happened, which now we're like 24 hours out from it happening, well, 12 anyway, and we're still not hearing what the exact damage is. Some water supplies maybe have hit. They were trying to target those, and it appears that some kind of residential building may have also been hit. Zelensky said, referring to that's Kiev and its suburbs, so that would have been different, not the high missiles, the Oreshniks, but something else. There is no suggestion the overnight Oreshnik strike was nuclear, despite its atomic capabilities. So you can send missiles without nuclear on it. You can also send rounds from like a howitzer type round that the Russians use on their equipment that is a tactical nuke. That can be done now, I believe, at this point. I'm not sure how it's done or what the machine or that they use, but it's similar to that. So they can send it something from 20 or 40 or 60 miles away. That's a round that comes in that can be nuclear tipped, I believe, is how that works. I'd have to get some details on that. Maybe you know what it is. You can let me know in the chat how that works for those rounds that go downrange, long range like that. So that was Russia, and that's what they did last night. That was pretty interesting. I watched that for a while. Man, those things come down so fast. It's crazy. So it's also the story is this: the exiled crown prince is at the center of the Iranian riot chaos. How his U.S.-based son of Iran's last Shah turned tide of protest while rallying cries. So this is the guy that may take over, or his son. He's in the United States, I believe, right now, and somehow he's getting news to the people in Iran, and that's why they've been actually protesting now for 10 to 15 days, depending on where you're at. Even some early ones popped up in early December, so a couple isolated spots have been like 30 days. Very toxic situation for those people that are in that. And it does feel like that something could change, but this has been like this before. It's happened before. And Trump has said we might go in and help them. We might go in and help the people because we're for the people, not for the policies and the politicians and the bad guys running the country. Um, so and there's all kinds of information still coming out about the shooting of the woman yesterday. There's new views coming out. Here's some information about the guy. Remember, he got dragged for 300 yards. I'm just looking at some of the information now. He's also he has an immigrant Filipino wife and is an Iraq veteran, as his father comes to his defense a little bit and tells some information about him because only information was coming out about her, and everybody was trying to go the other side. And here's Trump again getting out there, and remember, he boasts big, he talks big, because he wants to get something out of it, right? Usually that's how he negotiates. He did that for buildings in New York City, and that's what he does for all of our stuff too. So everything comes out like this boastful big stuff, but he's just trying to get things. And you know why the liberals don't like that? Because that's how they do their things. They ask for this and they get this, and this is really where they were trying to get. Oh, we want to get full health care for everybody, and we want to go totally health care for everybody. But they got it down here, and that's where they were trying to make the steps to eventually get to that point. Well, Trump does it exactly like they do it. Hey, I'm going to take over Greenland. We might even put troops in there. And then everybody panics. But in reality, he's got something else that he's trying to get that's at a lower level. So now he comes out, he announces that we struck places in Mexico and the cartels, and he declares his mortality or moral. It says morality, but I think he meant mortality, and it's the only limit. Him being killed, basically, is what the story's about. Uh, for him having being able to stop people like Maduro and capturing people like that and getting them off the streets. And, in a way, that's boastful, and he's probably right, especially if we just attacked some cartels in Mexico, and did some strikes there, and that just happened this morning, right? And here's the next story, the cartels in Trump's crosshairs, how merciless narco gangs spread terror in lawless Mexico with mass beheadings. We've all seen videos and pictures of that kind of thing. Public hangings and extermination camps are all done by the cartels as the U.S. prepares land strikes. So over the years, we've seen all these pictures, people in acid, hundreds of innocent civilians have been killed, people killed for just driving into the wrong place. Things like that happen all the time. Um, it's just kind of crazy how that works out for what the cartels are doing. But Trump's out there jumping around telling people about this stuff, and we'll see what comes of it. Wait 24 to 48 hours. Let's see what's going on. Let's see if we actually did do some strikes there, or if he's just talking about he could do them. Um, Let's see. The president earlier boasted of his massive foreign policy powers, which he does have huge, um, gonads, so to speak. When asked what the limits were on what the U.S. military could do in the region, he says, "My own mortality, my own mind is the only thing that can stop me." And he doesn't mean that he's trying to take over all power. He's trying to do stuff for the United States. And he believes that the only way he's going to get stopped is he gets out of office or somebody kills him. Well, he's only got 3 years left. We know that. And stop yourself if you think he's trying to take another four. It's not going to happen. Um, Trump has suggested that Greenland, Cuba, and Colombia could be next on his list for U.S. operations. And he's throwing that out there, right? Look at the reactions he's getting. People from NATO talking about World War III and NATO falling apart if that happens. Um, how they react immediately instead of stopping and waiting and seeing what's going to happen. The president even interrupted his interview to take a phone call from the president of Colombia, who now has promised he would take up arms if Trump came after him, right? Well, Maduro did the little boastfulness too, and he saw what happened, didn't he? It's just the president of Colombia is not on our radar as a big thing at this point. Doesn't mean he's not there. He's just farther down the list of important things. Trump and his collaborators have flirted with the idea of invading or attacking the cartels in Mexico since his election campaign. And I think a lot of people would like to do that, to put some kind of dent into fentanyl trafficking and drugs coming across our border. He's accused Central America drug traffickers of that. And me having been a missionary in Belize, I know that the Guatemalan gangs are awful. They are an influence in Belize and all over Central America and into the United States, right? The drug traffickers there have killed as many as from 250 to 300,000 Americans each year, it's saying. And that's blaming the cartels and their influence in the fentanyl trafficking. It's horrible. It's devastated families. You lose a child or a parent. We've done a really good job. We're trying to knock it down, Trump told Sean Hannity. So he must have did this interview on Fox News. Trump previously warned Mexico to get their act together. You have to do something with Mexico, he said. And uh, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has confirmed that the idea of U.S. military intervention in Mexico has been raised repeatedly in conversations with Trump, but said she has always rejected the offer, which, you see that, you understand that. But what are they going to do about it? She sees it as a non-starter. Well, what is Mexico going to do to us if we do something like that? Probably nothing. Just like Russia did nothing when we took the tanker other than stomp their feet and cry, right? Because they can't do that. They don't want to start a war with us, and they know Trump will back what he says. He just did it with Maduro. The Maduro thing was more of, look, I will do what I say, than it was getting Maduro. But Maduro had all these little dominoes that will fall after he's been taken, right? So that's something to think about, in that idea. So there, the man, the cartels, it could be a good war, a war, so to speak, but we don't probably even have to go into Mexico to do anything to do some of this. With drones, with, people and intel that are in the country, maybe be able to put a stop to some of this before it gets any bigger. In the wake of the capture of Maduro, Trump leveraged the remaining members of the regime into making deals on oil that are there. Hopefully, it's going to work out for the United States and for the people of Venezuela. And they're supposed to have some kind of voting in the next 18 months there. Well, how does that affect Mexico? Why did we go into Mexico? Or did we go into Mexico? Um, this is the only story I've seen on it, so I'm not sure if it's actually happened yet. Um, Trump says we still will be continuing to take storage ships and tanker ships directly to unloading docks in the United States if need be. I think the tanker that they took in the North Atlantic may have gone over to England, or it may have come back to the United States. It's a possibility. It's still in transit, or it has gotten to England by now, I would think at this point. Um, he's going to talk to the Mexican president or the Venezuelan president who took over next week again, after he refused to allow her power in a transition away from Maduro and addressed her desire to give him her Nobel Peace Prize in an interview with Hannity earlier this week. That was, boy, that's the woman who won the election from Maduro years ago, and Maduro wouldn't give up power, and she won by like 35%. Um, he'd be honored, he said, if she gave him his Nobel Peace Prize, but he's not going to take it. Um, then he took a shot at Norway, of course. What is it like when you've been able to take shots and call people names for decades? Nazis, call them fascists, call them whatever you want, baby killer, all these different things that they call the troops, all this stuff. For decades, you said whatever you want. And then all of a sudden, you get a president that shoots back at you the same stuff. That's why they don't like him. They don't like it. In reality, they're looking into the mirror, a lot of them. I'm not talking us personally, but a lot of the politicians, especially the people who are at the top of both of the sides of our political spectrum, don't like it when their president shoots back at them that they're awful or they're bad people, right? That doesn't mean we hate everybody either, but those politicians have been doing that for decades upon decades, calling other people names and shooting darts at them that they have all the problems in the world and they're the worst people in the world. And then when the president shoots back at them, oh my gosh, my panties are burning, right? They're so worried about it. Well, you're getting a taste of what you like, or what you were liking to do to other people. You just need to look in the mirror. And I'm not talking most of us as people. Most of us could care less. Really, we would wish it would all go away. I know that. Most of you, even no matter which side of the aisle you're on, you wish it would go away and then we just get along and we get things done and happen. Maybe some of it's right-sided, some of it's left-sided, but we just get things done. And they just don't do that. It's not happened for 40 years. I've been paying attention to it. So, um, it's just one of those things. I'm trying to figure out who's going to win in this battle. Trump is pushing a lot of limits to other countries and making things rough on them. And our side, for some reason, half the country doesn't like it. And the reason they don't like it is because they don't like him. And sorry, sorry. Some of it's going to work, some of it's not going to work. Some of what Biden works, a lot of what he did didn't, especially economically. That's why Trump became president again. You got to be ready for that. You got to be ready for a new president coming in 3 years who could be JD Vance or it could be someone on the left that comes in, right? I like the Stephen A. Smith idea because he sees things as they are, even though he's a Democrat. The Democrats have allowed their far left to take over. The Republicans have allowed their far right to take over at times, and neither is good for the country. It needs to be more in the middle for us, and then things will be a bit better for us during that kind of thing. So, um, what kind of things else are happening? I'm just kind of looking through the news and going through a few things today. It's Friday. We're just going to wing it as we go through today. I'm still going to hit the weather strong. I'll probably hit sports again next hour, and we'll see how it goes as we go through the day. Freaky Friday, and we're just going to let it flow as it happens. Let's talk Lafayette. This is the fifth day of the show. As you would expect, I saw a few people the first few days, and then it kind of dropped off, and then hopefully it just starts building. Tell your friends. This is a chance you'll be able to come and chat with people, talk with people, get your word out there every day from 9 to noon. 9 to noon in Lafayette, kind of focusing on mainly Lafayette people, but anybody can get in here and talk if they would like to. We'll cover top stories. We'll cover local stories. We'll cover sports. Obviously, we're going to cover weather really well because I'm a meteorologist. I love sports. I'm a sports freak. I've been a sports freak for years. I don't watch as much as I used to, and I participated for up until my spinal cord injury when I was 30, and then I very little since then other than golf and some bowling and things. But that's because of the injury. But I still love sports. I still love my Cubbies. I still love Purdue basketball, football. So let's talk it. Get on the chat and talk about it. I'm trying to get Gunner to get some of his buddies in there, so he's talking about that. Um, he just needs to know how to get the channel out to the world, right? That's what we need to do. So that's exciting that he's telling me about that. We'll have a great conversation this afternoon when he comes home, and we'll talk about what he thinks about this because I want to know what people think. I just see myself as someone who guides people through stuff, asks questions, and guides them to the next step of whatever they're talking about in there. I don't see myself as the big opinion guy consistently like a Glenn Beck or a Rush Limbaugh was. We're going to talk a lot of stuff. You'll hear my opinion for sure, but I would rather hear everybody's opinion. It's been one of those odd things. Um, when you talk about leadership and people talk about when you run things, they don't think their leaders listen to them enough, and that dawned on me when I was first in the Marine Corps, and I realized I needed to listen to my guys a lot once I got into the leadership roles, and when I've been in leadership in any other portions after that, I did that. So I have a tendency to sit back and watch and listen, and I don't like to get into confrontations. Maybe some of you are like that. So because I don't like to get into confrontations, I want to hear what you have to say, and I will do what you say if I believe that's right. If I get 5 ideas and I have one, I'm not stuck necessarily on my one. Of course, I probably believe it's a little better, but if one of those 5 pops out to me and says that's the thing to do, we're going to go do that. That's the way I like to lead. I like to have everybody else spread it out, give their ideas. Let's figure out what's the best way to do it. That's why at church we have big meetings and we talk about stuff and like Pastor Billy said something, I say yes or no. Most of the time, I say yes because we are kind of same mindset of talking to people about Christ, and so we think about a lot of the same things. When he comes up with a wild idea, I like it, I love it. Sometimes I do say no, though. Occasionally, sometimes he says no to me. Um, uh, Pastor Mandy, not as much. We both say yes to her, so she kind of runs the show sometimes. But that's just kind of the funny part of it. But leadership for me is listening, which is unusual because I'm a big talker. But when it comes to making decisions, I like to hear it. I ask my wife all the time about what should we do here or do there, and I really want to hear what she has to say. And sometimes she just wants me to make the decision because she's doing her leadership and her managing at her place that she works all the time, and she has enough of that. So sometimes she just wants me to do that, and I understand that too. Um, but I'm still working on that listening part. You're listening to me right now, but I'm still working on the listening part as a pastor. You got to be better at that. I'm good at talking or at least spewing out stuff and annoying people, I'm sure. But I'm getting better at the listening part. And this show should be more about listening and hearing what you have to say. And eventually, I think it's going to work its way to that point that we will see that. All right. So, um, I'm gonna pop over to X here real quick and look at a few things and see what the latest news is. And see, I get a lot of basketball stuff, of course, and Purdue stuff, but I do get a lot of the new news coming on from time to time, and so that's what I'm looking for on here if I'm seeing anything new. A lot of the videos from what's happening. Uh, see, so immediately, remember I just told you. It depends on what side of the aisle it seems like you're on, but that CNN was starting to come around. So here's the New York Times idea of what happened, but this was from yesterday. Their analysis was pretty definitive. The guy wasn't in front of the vehicle when he shot her or he shot at her. He wasn't in the path. Well, that's because he was trying to get out of the way, right? Where now CNN is actually starting to say, okay, it does look like he was in front of it and she was going to run him over. So why wouldn't he think that way? And that's CNN starting to say that. So what side are you're listening to? You're starting to see people, even on the left, who have their idea that this was a murder, um, seeing that he was in front of the vehicle, it moved towards him. It's obvious to most people, and he was trying to get out of the way while he was trying to protect himself, shooting at the same time. For the people who keep saying he moved out of the way or he was trying to get out of the way while he got brushed, it looks like on his left leg by the car. What was he supposed to do? Stand there and get run over? That's what I say. Is that what you wanted? Him to shoot her and her to run him over? Would that have made you all happy? I guess it probably would have. Um, but we'll have to see. Right now, it seems like about two-thirds of the people pretty much are on the side of the police officer was okay with what happened. Only okay. We wish he had never shot, really. I wish he just gotten bumped by the car and got out of the way, and then they chased her down the street somewhere and picked her up somewhere else. And then she'd still be here. The kids would still have their mom, and they'd be able to have somebody there with them because their dad passed away a couple years ago, from what I understand. Um, so that's kind of what's been going on that. And the guy who did the shooting got dragged like 100 yards in a shooting just 6 months ago. Well, it was in June, so 7, 8 months ago. Um, and you got to think of what he was thinking at the time. The car starts moving towards him. He's thinking the same thing. This is happening again. So I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just telling you what happened and what appears to have happened and what he was thinking. And what was she thinking? Um, we hear her yelling at the police, and the police are coming up, telling her to get out of the car, and she's not doing it. She throws it into reverse, and then she throws it into forward. She looks like she's trying to escape. Um, I haven't heard any audio tells her, says, "Okay, officer, I'll go park over here," or "Okay." No, she's defiant, and it appears from what people have been saying, and that's even her significant other, though she married a woman apparently after her father or her husband passed away, and she said she put her in the wrong place at the wrong time, never should have been there. Why were they doing it? Some people in her family have said the same thing, but some people in her family have said it's a murder. So you can see the line's been drawn pretty well. And it seems like now, after about 24 to 48 hours, it's actually been 48 to 72, that you've got your mind made up one way or the other. It does not matter what's going to be shown to you. You're going to stay on one side or the other. I can see that right now. That's just the way it is. It's the way it happens. I see a little bit from both sides, definitely, but I definitely lean at the moment towards the cop um, was thought his life was threatened and he shot back, and the shot came through the front window. So, and you can see on videos he is in front of the car. She turns it and aims it at him. What would you think? So, because he was standing over to the one side, when she backs up, that puts him right in front of her, and then as she starts to move forward, he's trying to get out of the way while he's pulling his weapon and shooting at her, and that all happens in a split second. I don't care what anybody says, there is none of this, he had the gun out and he was gonna shoot her for 3 seconds. No, he had to make some kind of decision quickly. Whether that was a right decision or not, it's hard to say, but, it does look like it's a legal decision that was correct. Um, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it goes. Um, see how much rioting happens around the United States in the next day or two to see if anybody's going to do anything about anything with that. So, but that new video from across the streets come out. You'll have to check that out online if you get a chance. Um, What else is happening in the world? And we talked about the rounds that Russia sent into Ukraine, the high ballistic missiles, 8,000 miles an hour, the Oreshniks, that they did that last night. That was supposed to be in response for Kiev shooting missiles into the palace of the president back on December 29th. Um, the owner of the Swiss Inferno Bar is now taken into custody. Remember that fire a week ago or so on New Year's Eve that killed 40 people? Uh, he's being deemed a flight risk, so they took him into custody as he and his wife face manslaughter, probably a probe into it at the very least. Um, wow, there was what, like one exit out. The ceiling was flammable, but no no one should have had sparklers up either, but somehow they got up there. Somebody was on somebody's shoulders or standing somewhere, caught the ceiling on fire, and then it trapped a lot of people. So that's what happened with that Swiss fire, and 40 people died, and young people too, a lot of them. So that's we hate to see that. Um, it seems like Iran Iran may be falling apart. Remember we talked about dominoes yesterday of getting Maduro right out of Venezuela. That would put pressure on places like Cuba. Iran, Russia, China, Greenland, all right? The Greenland thing, Trump threw that one out there on top of it. But to push pressure on all these people to know that Trump's gonna do what he says, he will back it up if he needs to, but in reality, he's just trying to bargain with them. He's trying to get a deal with them. He's trying to get all these countries to come together like he's done with the Middle East. The Middle East is, with the Abraham Accords, you're starting to see some of the countries come together and work things out. It's not totally perfect, but it's way better than it was. And he's trying to get them all to come together. Well, Iran, the people do not want their politicians, all the people. We're not talking like this is 50-50 and one side's arguing against another and it's a civil war, or like people want to talk about here in the United States where we're all fighting against each other and that should happen. That should not happen. Um, but in their country, 95% of the people want them out. Unfortunately, the 5% who don't are in power, right? That's how that works. When you're a dictator, you're a communist, that's how it works. That's what Maduro was trying to do. And we went and got him and took him out. Now the Shah is trying to do the same thing. He cut off the internet to Iran, to the Iranian people. That tells you right there. He doesn't want any videos getting out, and they're going to go out and start killing people to try to get these riots slash protests to go down. And they are in every single large city in Iran. And we're not talking one or two. We're talking like 50 to 100 largest of the largest cities in Iran have some kind of protest going on. And videos of tens of thousands of people were getting out. And the Shah finally put a stop to it. And he's sending probably troops and people out in the streets. And in the next 24 hours to 48 over the weekend, we're going to probably find out what's been happening in Iran. Um, I would love for the Shah to fall and somebody else to take over, but who's saying the next guy isn't worse unless the people actually vote for somebody and it's all done properly, like they're going to try to do in Venezuela, right? Hopefully they have a good, thorough voting process in the next 18 months in Venezuela and they get some voting there. The Iranian people, I think they're going to have to take it from the Shah on their own. And I don't know if they have enough power to do that, but they definitely are in the streets and they definitely are mad at the Ayatollah Khomeini. But he says that he won't back down and they won't back down. And they're chanting slogans like death to the dictator in the streets. They're setting fire to official buildings. There we go. Same thing. The Norton thing came up. What is happening? Not sure what I did. I probably got into something I shouldn't have, folks. All right. So that's what's happening in Iran right now. And that's something we got to keep an eye on for sure, right? We got to see what's going to be happening there. That dictates other things. It's just another domino. I told you yesterday, Cuba may fall on its own. And the reason that is because they got all their oil from Venezuela. So until they make a bargain with us, the United States, and the people in Venezuela, they may not have oil. That could just make the whole country fall apart. And wouldn't it be nice if communism left Cuba and it opened the country up for the people there and opened it up to tourism and everything else that happens in the Caribbean? Wouldn't that be great for the people of Cuba to have money, money in their pockets, for us to be able to go visit a country we haven't been able to visit, that kind of thing? I would love that. That would be awesome. I think most of you would too. So if it just falls apart on its own, that would be great. Get that communism out of there. Same thing in Iran. If the people take it over and it falls apart, that would be the best for the people in the long run. That does mean it would be rough at the beginning, though, right? And those people know that are protesting. It's going to be real tough. It's not going to be immediate that things get better. Okay. So, but they know that. They know that. They're out in the streets. Or at least most of them know that. All right. Let's hit a couple local things here, and then I'll get into some weather, in about 20 minutes, a half hour, and we'll talk a little sports too. There's a story out about NDOT submitting plans for a toll road, a toll plan for I-70. Wow, funding concerns stall the projects there on that. So Indiana drivers may soon face tolls on Interstate 70 as the Indiana Department of Transportation has applied to the federal government to implement the charges. So I got to wonder to myself, remember when New York tried to put those toll bridges up and all that toll stuff there, and Trump put a stop to it, and they're fighting over that? It's hard to say what's going to happen with that. So, but you may face tolls if you're out on Interstate 70. Wow. NDOT's decision comes amid funding challenges that have led to the cancellation or delay of more than 300 highway improvement projects in recent years. There is currently no timeline for when the application might be approved. So something to keep in mind. Wow, they could be putting a toll road on I-70 if you go down there through, what is that, Crawfordsville? Cuts through Crawfordsville, doesn't it? Yeah. There's in Wabash Township, there's a new fire Looks like an ambulance there. Awesome. The community grows there. So does the need for emergency services. Wabash Township Fire Department serves 30,000 residents, a number that's increasing rapidly. Keeping up with the demand means expanding services when necessary. Just this week, the department added an advanced life support ambulance. They call that ALS. Um, so this story's on WLFI. The chief, Dan Huff, says as we grow, the county grows, the township and the area grows, traffic increases, the amount of people that live here in the area and travel through in the area do also. So we're able to reduce response times with this new vehicle, and we can increase the amount of patient care that we can give at earlier interventions. So that's some great news there for the new ambulance. Um, and the Wabash Township Division Chief, again, Dan Huff, has been in the industry for around 20 years. Getting this expansion has been such a huge improvement for the Wabash Township, he said, and our staff has been so supportive and so helpful. So we're looking forward to where this can grow and where this can go in the future. Uh, of course, you're worried about traffic and drivers and making sure your lights and sirens are on and all of these things that are appropriate, but you're also putting a game plan together as you're driving to an incident. Fortunately, we didn't get any calls while we were out, but they were out and they went around with them, that they didn't get any calls. So that was pretty cool for that story. Nice story on WLFI about the new fire engine or actually ambulance there. And then the NDOT story about I-70. What else is going on? You remember yesterday I talked about Mayor Tony Rosworski reflects on his 22 years in office. So he's been in office a long time now. And I do remember him when I was on WLFI. I don't remember if he was actually mayor by then or if he just come in for some interviews or if he was the mayor. Not sure because that's about the time I was leaving too. Um, so I remember talking to him just briefly um, on a day or two there when he came into the WLFI and talked to some people. So seemed like a nice guy. And 22 years says to me that he's been doing a decent job for Lafayette, helping make it grow and get bigger and better. And with that comes a lot of problems. Remember, there was a gang related arrest this week. The gangs are getting some influence from in the Chicago area and Gary area. Well, Gary's better than it used to be, that's for sure. But the Chicago area and the Indianapolis area, and we're right between. And I told you that there are plans in many people's minds and politicians that basically Indianapolis is going to grow into Chicago towards it, right up and down I-65. And you can see that with all the buildings that are going up and projects that are going up in and along the I-65 corridor between Indianapolis and Chicago. And who's right in the middle of that? Lafayette is. So there are some factors that are starting to affect our community. We are not a huge community, but we are a large enough community to start having these problems. And we're starting to get some gang related stuff that's happening. And there was a gang related arrest this week for some type of intimidation that somebody did. And that's one of the first times I've heard about something actually happening. So there it is. It's in your news this week. There's all kinds of news going on again locally. There was arrest for aggravated battery. I don't like to get in there and get a lot of those names. We know this is happening on a daily basis. Sometimes they make the news, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it depends on who the person is. That annoys me too. You don't hear about some of the cases because it's just whoever it is. But there's been all kinds of things that have been happening. I'm looking at some of the stories that are on WLFI, and some of them go out to December. You can see that's pretty cool. You can get emails from them. Remember, check in with Star City, which is the other TV station, WLFI, and go ahead and get on JC Online and check with the Journal and Courier about their news because they're the ones that are going to bring it to you. I'm going to try to help you and look at all that and talk to you about some of that and see what your opinions are. I want to hear what you have to say and just see how things are going there because if we lose those local reporters, then our news is going to come from Indianapolis, and you're not going to hear anything about an ambulance in Wabash. You're not going to hear anything about a sex offender that they picked up off the streets or a gang member that they got or about the shooting over at Burberry Place or wherever it is, right? You're not going to hear about those things unless they're big and huge. So you're not going to know what's actually going on in our community. All right, so there that is. And then here's the one thing that, and they ran a story yesterday on this about Stranger Things. Do you guys know about Stranger Things? I still don't know anything about it, really. Um, one of my friends, Billy, said something to me about it, and at church, and he said that, he loves the show. I hear it's from Indiana, right? It has concluded after 9 years. It is set in the fictional Hawkins, Indiana, and often references the state, but I hear it's a good show. It's like one of the number 1 streaming shows, out there, so I'm about to go check it out. Hopefully, it doesn't have anything real bad, you know, in it, but I hear it's a pretty good show, and it's exciting, maybe fun. We'll have to see, and just because it's in Indiana, it gets me excited about that. Like, there's a big ball game tonight. I ain't even talked about it. Indiana's playing to get itself into the national championship game, and, I'm rooting for Indiana. And you say to yourself, "Well, Brian, you're a Purdue fan first." Well, yeah, I am a Purdue fan first, but I'm a state of Indiana fan too. If it's Ball State, if it's, Indiana, if it's Indiana State, if it's Purdue, if it's Purdue Northwest Central, whatever it is, it is. I'm rooting for them guys because it's the state of Indiana. I'm a local guy. I come from Northern Indiana. I love anything here. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I grew up a Notre Dame fan, but then I kind of progressed over to Purdue because I lived up near Notre Dame as a kid into my teenage years before I went in the Marine Corps. And then I came to Lafayette, and I've been a Purdue fan ever since. But I still like the Hoosiers. Now, when Purdue plays the Hoosiers, you know who I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for Purdue, right? But I'm rooting for Indiana in a lot of other cases, and in this case, going for the national championship, I'm rooting for Indiana, and I know some of the Indiana fans, when Purdue went to the national championship basketball game, some of them were rooting for Purdue too. Don't get that. Yeah, they jumped the fence to help out. They'd have been happy if Purdue won. They would have wanted their Hoosiers to win, but they would have been happy if Purdue won too because they're from the state of Indiana. Even though we bump heads and we're against each other when we play games against each other, I still root for the Hoosiers if they're going to go for the national championship. So that game is tonight. I think Ole Miss won last night. Is that who won the game last night? Let me go back and try to find it. I got it somewhere. Got it somewhere. I got all kinds of things open. Ole Miss scored a touchdown late in the game, but then Miami went down the field and scored the winning touchdown to win 31-27. So it was back and forth the last couple minutes of that game. Must have been pretty exciting. I didn't see anything of it. So whoever wins the game tonight between Oregon and Indiana is going to play Miami for the national championship on the what day is it? I think it's the that Monday, next Monday, then like the 20th or something like that. We'll have to look that up. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Got to give you some numbers of when the next game is, of course. National championship game recap. Boom. CAA football. College playoff. When's the next game? Games, rankings, standing, schedules. Bracket. Here's a bracket. All right. And then, of course, it goes to some kind of challenge. I don't want the challenge. I want the bracket. Oh, it's a video. All right. Well, the game is like in another week and a half after tonight's game. So be ready for that. Root Indiana on if you get a chance tonight, just because you're a Hoosier yourself. That's why you should be rooting on the Indiana Hoosiers. You can still have Purdue at the top of your pyramid of teams that you love, but I would like to see Indiana get into the national championship. That would be exciting. But it's going to be a tough Miami team who scores a lot of points and can come back from being down. That's for sure, because that's what they've done already, and they just showed that again last night. And apparently they've done that a few times over the season, like most teams do. They come back sometimes when they're playing good teams. And unlike basketball, football, you can run out the string and go undefeated easier than you can in basketball. But it's still something you got to keep an eye on. So, all right. So there you go on that. Indiana tonight. That's going to be fun. That is going to be fun. There's a big Purdue game tomorrow against Penn State. Penn State's the bottom feeder. They're 0-4 in the league, and they're 9-6. There's only one team in the Big Ten that's below 500. Maryland's at 7-8. They're also 0-4 in the Big Ten. But Michigan almost lost to Penn State the other night. All right. It was close. It was a close game, 74-72. So Penn State's got some fight in them. Michigan has looked like world beaters. They've looked like an NBA team. They're beating everybody by 30 and good teams by 30. They've got like some of the highest Ken Palm ratings ever. And they're number one while Purdue's number 4. There's nothing wrong with that with Purdue's rating, but Arizona, who is it? Not Penn State, Michigan, obviously. And the other team is in front of them right now are just playing great basketball. Well, so is Purdue. Purdue's playing great basketball, but they just have other teams that are playing great right now. So those four are probably your candidates. Throwing Gonzaga and Duke in there, you got about five or six teams that have a chance to win the national championship this year. And I don't see usually a sleeper doesn't come out of somewhere. So in case unless somebody really starts playing some great basketball, you're down to about those six teams that have a chance to win it. It seems like. But Penn State's coming in tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at Mackey Arena. The Boilermakers are now 8-1 at home. They lost that one game to Iowa State, kind of a fluky game where everything went bad. Other than that, they've been blowing people out as of late by like 25 points per game over their last six games since the loss. They are now 14-1. They were 8-0, then lost a game, and now they've run six in a row again. They should win this game. They're probably highly favored in this game, but Penn State almost beat Michigan just the other night, so we got to keep an eye on it. Some of the top performers lately, Fletch has been off with his shooting a little bit. Everybody goes through a slump once in a while. He'll rebound and be above 40% here soon. I think he's like 39. Wow. Everybody's complaining about Fletcher shooting and shooting 39%. Sorry, why? Because he shoots 45 a lot of times. Um, Fletch will be on board. There'll be a game where Fletcher just takes over and he scores 30, and everybody will be like, "Yep, Fletcher's back." Trey Kaufman-Renn had a double-double the other night, 14 and 14. So expect him to kind of have a great night, I think, tomorrow during the day at 2 o'clock tomorrow. And I think the big guys on the Penn State team, Caden Mingo is averaging like 15 points, 4 assists, and 3 steals for them. And Freddie Vion, the fifth, is averaging 15 points himself over the last 10 games. So those are the guys you have to watch out for on the Penn State team. Um, but they score less than Purdue. They give up more than Purdue. And right now they're 0-4 in the Big Ten. It seems like it should be, but if you come out and you're not focused on what you're doing, you can struggle at times with that kind of thing. I got some stats here that I picked up off the internet that I wasn't able to put in anything yet, but I got them in my phone, which is a smart thing to do now. So the Bart Torvik ratings. This is not Ken Palm. Ken Palm's one of the big ones. The Torvik ratings is one of the big ones. And what they did is they took the last month since December 7th. So it's about 10 games since then. Is that basically 6 games anyway for most teams? And the number one team in the country is Purdue. Purdue is number one, 130 on the offensive side, point 4, and 88.4 defensive, which respectively is fifth and fourth, which makes them number one in the country. Michigan is 13th offensively and second defensively. That makes them the number 2 team. And then it was Arizona that I couldn't remember before. They're number 3 in the last month. Vanderbilt has been playing really good too. They kind of come out of nowhere. At number 4, Tennessee, tough Tennessee team at 5. Connecticut at number 6. Don't forget them. They probably have a run in them for the national championship. You know what Bobby Hurley can do with them. And Nebraska, number 7 in the last month. Wow. They are undefeated, and they are the surprise of the Big Ten right now. They are undefeated. Michigan's undefeated. Purdue's undefeated. And Nebraska's undefeated overall, as is Michigan. Illinois comes in at number 8. Iowa's number 9, and Indiana is number 10. So there are your top 10 Torvik ratings in the last month, dominated by the Big Ten. Purdue, Michigan, Nebraska, Illinois, Iowa, and Indiana. 6 of the top 10 in the last month have all come from the Big Ten. Pretty exciting there. But I also got this off of, and I'm going to start getting the names of these people when I pull them so I can tell you so you can go to their websites and check them out on X or wherever you're going to check them out. But this is Purdue by the quarter. And people have been complaining a little bit. There's been a let up the last game and maybe the game before that when they had big leads, and it seemed like the focus lost a little bit. And that happens from time to time. But some of the numbers back that doesn't mean they're not a great team. It just means that, that kind of thing happens during the season. They're going to play 40 games or right at 40 games. So when you look at the season, he broke it down instead of halves to quarters. So the first 10 minutes, the second 10 minutes, the third and fourth, just kind of like the college game and the pro game, college women, that is. In the first half or the first 10 minutes of the 15 games they've played so far, only twice have they been behind. At Memphis, they were -1 in the first 10 minutes, and at Wisconsin, they were -3 in the first 10 minutes. They were 11 up on Marquette real quick. They were 10 up on Washington real quick, and they're a +66 total over all those games. So, averaging what's that? Like 6 points, ahead after the first 10 minutes of the game. And a lot of people have said that Purdue's coming out slow. I don't think they're coming out slow. The other team is playing hard at the beginning because they're trying to beat one of the best teams in the country, and so they keep it closer, that's all. But everybody wants a 20-point blowout in the first 5 minutes, and then they win by 50. Well, that'd be great, but that's not the way it is. There's another team out there that's trying to play. All right, the second 10 minutes in the 15 games, only 3 times were they, behind, or they were -2 against Oakland, -6 against Iowa State, and -2 against Minnesota, so they lost that 10 minutes of the game, and one time they were tied against Alabama. And then you go to the first 10 minutes coming out of the second half, and this is where teams sometimes run over teams or they fall apart. Only twice did they not, uh, extend their lead coming out of the break, right? And that was against Alabama, where they were -3, and Iowa State, they were -14. But they were, like, +25 against Minnesota, crazy. +15 against Wisconsin, and they were +5 against Washington. Um, Lots of +8s. It looks like they're averaging close to 10 points, going over in the first 10 minutes of the second half. And then we get to the last 10 minutes. Now, are they tired? Are they losing focus because they're up big? Is it because some of the guys are coming off the bench? Some of your walk-ons are getting a little time. Some of that can be done throughout all of that. So, that's a possibility. And over the 14 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different, times, they were outscored by their opponent. Now they're small, you're usually like 5, 6 points, 5 points, 4 points, 3 points, but then there's that 14 against Washington when they made a little run right at the end. Um, but generally speaking, they're winning most games by 20 points. So 286 points divided by what, 15. So that puts you in the about the 19, 18 range somewhere in there. Rough estimate just off the top of my head. It does look like there's a slowdown in the last 10 minutes of the game, but that could be because you have big leads and you like 3 of them, they still won by 7, 8, 16, and 20 total. So, but the one game, the Iowa game, they only won the first 10 minutes and then they got beat the next 3. It's the only bad game in the whole group. Um, so and they've only won 2 games by single digits, 3 games. They beat Alabama by 7, Memphis by 9, and then they won the Washington game by 8. Everybody else has been like 16 or more, plus 10 on Oakland. So it does go to show you that maybe something's happening at the end of the games, but the guys are still playing great. And so those were a couple charts that were pretty cool, that I found that they're being put out on X, being put out in different places. Probably find them on Facebook too if you're doing that. Um, it's pretty exciting, what's going on with that kind of thing, and with the basketball team. And I put it out there at the beginning of the season. I didn't think they were going to lose more than 3 games all year, but they would lose 1 in the non-com, and they did that. They would lose 1 or 2 during the season, and they definitely would win out in the NCAA championship and win the entire tournament. So that gives them 2 losses during the Big Ten season, or 1 in the Big Ten season and 1 maybe in the Big Ten tournament, but they win out the last 6 games. That's the one we care about the most. Don't even care about the others. As long as they win 6 in a row at the end of the season in the Big Ten, in the NCAA tournament, we will all be happy about that. I am positive on that front. So that'll be exciting, for those things to happen. Uh, what is it? 11:23. I think we'll get back into the weather here just in a second. Let me scan, see if there's anything else coming out, any news, see if anybody's happened that we should really talk about. We talked about some global stuff. We talked about local stuff. We talked about national stuff. We talked about how our president throws lots of big things out there to get a better deal. He's a deal maker. That's the way he is. But then everybody gets excited about the things that he throws out there, and they get upset about that. And then when the deal comes later, they forget about what he said and they move on to the next thing. Um, that's the way it is with the president that's in right now. And he's trying to push some dominoes all around the world right now to make it better for our hemisphere and make us more safe where we are. And that pushes the buttons on China and Russia and Iran may fall apart. Cuba could fall apart. Venezuela's already falling apart too. Iran may fall apart today with the rioting that's going on there. They've turned their internet off. So that's some of the global stuff. Russia sent in high ballistic missiles into Lviv, into Ukraine, coming in at 8,000 miles an hour. And they're like a blink on the screen when you see the video. It's just like, wow, they're moving so fast. You can't shoot those down. That's for sure. and Russia and Ukraine have been trading missiles and the drones back and forth for what, a year or two now, where Ukraine started firing into Russia, and both are trying to get at the basically the energy sectors to shut down things in their countries, and that just keeps happening day after day. Um, why can't they just stop where they are? Let's stop the killing. Let's get this thing over with and move on. But that doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon. I told you a few years ago, if you talked to me, if you saw one of my Substack writings, I said it was going to be a long slog as it started. Once Russia missed the opportunity to get into Kiev and take over because they couldn't hold the runway at the airport, that battle was going to turn into exactly what it is. It's a slog. And no matter what the reasoning for it, it'd be great if we could stop it. President Trump's trying to do that. He's been able to stop things in a lot of different places around the globe. He tells you about it, and people don't like that because he tells you about it, but it is true. It has happened. He's not perfect. He hasn't been able to stop this one. He boastfully said he would do it on the first day, and he tried, but the two sides definitely don't want to talk to each other much. And we once in a while we hear that it's getting close, and then it backs off again. So we'll see what happens. It would be nice if they could stop that. And instinctively, because I haven't heard anything from China for a few days, I'm starting to worry what's going on over there, right? They did those exercises a week or two ago, and then all this stuff with pulling tankers and kicking people out of different places and grabbing Maduro. They've only made like one statement, and they've been very quiet. Makes you wonder. Um, I still think that Taiwan thing will be drones and airplanes and missiles and things like that, and less people. But if they do go across the strait to get to Taiwan with people with boats, the best time to do that is November and April. That's when the seas are the best. So that's when your little uh, tentacles should be on high alert for actual China trying to take over Taiwan. It's going to happen somehow or another. It would be nice if it was done peacefully. If Taiwan just said, "All right, we don't want to lose a million people. Let's just go ahead and do whatever." I don't like that. I'm just saying that's would save a lot of people's lives. I'm more worried about lives than I am the actual outcome of what happens. Saving lives and hopefully, like in Venezuela, making people's lives better by taking Maduro and charging him with the charges that we did. All right, 11:26. 11:26. My voice has lasted 5 days, and now we're 3 hours into this, or 2.5 to this day. I got one more big weather look for you guys before we get out of here because we got about a half hour to go. Let me switch over to the charts. Hey, I noticed my sister just tried to call me. She check me out. Check me out. Get on chat and see what's going on, Kelly. You can talk to me that way. My sister Kelly, Sissy Poo, that's her nickname. You all know her. All right, currently 44 degrees. It's cloudy out there. We were at like 63 last night at midnight. So the high yesterday was roughly 63, and today it was 63. It stayed that way for a few hours. Then around 5, 6 o'clock this morning, it started dropping. We're down to 44 right now. We're going to hover right around 44, 45 most of the day, and then into the evening, it'll start cooling off again. There's a chance for some sprinkles still out there. The wind is starting to die too right now, so that's good news. We knew it was going to get windy overnight, and it did. It was banging on the house here. I'm sure it did at your place too. There were gusts as high as 70 knots in Indiana and in Illinois last night. I'm not sure if they were locally here. Haven't heard of any damage yet, but well, I'm sure there were some tree limbs down and some trees here or there because it just that kind of wind, when you get 50 miles an hour or more, it just knocks things over pretty easily if they're weak. And trees go down pretty quickly too. So 44 currently. Let's take a look around the area. Here's a map showing what's going on. There it goes. This one says 44 currently at 12 p.m. or this is the forecast for basically 20 minutes from now. And a lot of places that are in the 40s with their 50s and 60s out towards the east over into Columbus. And that's where the front has gone to at this point as it passed through us overnight last night. You see wind directions on this chart too. Pretty good. I kind of like those. I've gotten used to those now that they've come out. Let's take a look at a satellite picture. I'll highlight where Lafayette is with the cursor. There we go. We're right there. That's Tippecanoe County in Indiana. You see the high clouds with the system moving off towards our east. That's where the cold front is. Cold air behind it. The gray you see there, right there behind it, south of Lake Michigan all the way down to us. That's the low clouds we're seeing now. Hard to tell if this is a gap, a dry spot back here. If it is, hey, maybe we could get a couple spots of sun this afternoon. But generally speaking, the clouds are going to be here. And as this little tail of this system up here, the lows here, this little trough comes behind it, we could see some sprinkles in some of this highlighted stuff out here this morning and into the early afternoon hours, and then trying to clear out. Uh, Radar shows the rain is off to the east, and you can see just a little bit of that light rain passing through South Bend, going towards Fort Wayne. Looks like it did not extend all the way down here, but if it's real light, that sprinkly kind of thing I've been telling you about may not show up on the radar either. But let's change over and see if we can get a visual and see where that back edge of those clouds are right now. Let's go to the day cloud phase and look at this. All right, so there it is. That is an opening back there. See that? You can see the river on the ground there. This is the new visual just starting to show up. The high clouds passing off towards our east. Lafayette is right here. That's where the cursor is. And you can see the low clouds rotating over us from the trough to our north. A couple spots of sun over towards Champaign, over towards Rantoul in that area, heading towards Attica. But the rotation right now still seems like we're going to stay under the cloud cover for a while. And this back edge over here, which is over like Springfield, Decatur, that kind of thing, is rotating down towards Terre Haute to our south a little more. And we may stay in the cloud cover to our north a little bit, although there's some spots in there. But you notice there's more cloud cover here. And with this angle and this rotation, this is going to stay with us a little longer. But there is an opening. Maybe we get some erosion on this on the backside of this as the day goes on. Once the sun starts hitting on it a bit, it's not like a summer sun where it would dry it out much quicker, or a fall sun that is very dry. But it is winter, so the sun angle is a little lower. It doesn't have quite as much power, but it's going to erode some of this backside. Maybe we'll see some spotty sun this afternoon. So the visual is showing everything right now. It's pretty good. There again, open spots near north of Champaign right now, and that's Rantoul over there. Lafayette's right about there, folks, if you want to see where it is. And the cloud cover is pretty easily seen on this. A good chart to look at. And the radar shows everything a little bit farther to the north of us. Let's go to the HER, the high resolution rapid refresh. We've been looking at the 12Z, and I'm going to because the 12Z goes out farther. Every 6 hours, the 12Z comes out, and I believe it goes, there you go, goes 48 hours out, all right? So it's starting this morning. It's showing what's going on. It shows a chance for those little sprinkles. It shows some more low clouds and sprinkles overnight in Illinois especially, and then towards us as another weak trough approaches. And then there's a chance for some rain in there tomorrow, right? And that starts, what time did I put that at? Okay, so it starts around 9 in the morning, lasts a few hours, passes through, leaves some clouds, and then in the evening we get a chance for some light snow moving in with the colder temperatures as the colder air moves in overnight. But there's very little accumulation really expected with the snowfall. We're talking, if you're at best, you're going to get a half an inch to an inch in very isolated spots. Most everybody's just going to get a dusting. But the HER, the HRR, the high resolution rapid refresh, updates every hour. So every 6 hours, it puts this 48-hour one out, but every hour it puts up an update. Like, see, here was the 14Z one. Let's see if the new one's out. The 15Z is 100%, and it only goes out 18 hours. So it shows you really close in what it's going to do. Every hour it does that. And it shows that, there's the shower that we just saw to the north. There it is, showing up very well on this chart. And the showers that are out towards the east that went through last night. Maybe you got some thunder, maybe you didn't. I don't think there was much in there. Plenty of gusty winds, though, with the system, as expected. And then it's just kind of quiet, a little sprinkles here or there. See them over Lafayette tonight in the evening, still a possibility. That could be some fog, also as a potential that we would have to watch out for, some dense fog in spots, especially after the little bit of rain went through. And then by the 18Z hour, which is like tomorrow morning, the approaching system is coming in. So that's the update on the hourlies, just the 18-hour forecast from the HER. And again, every 6 hours, it puts out a 48-hour forecast. So, and it's become very accurate, very accurate. It's a very good system. And then I jump out to the NAM Nest, which goes out a few hours longer, and that gives me a little bit more of a boost. Is this the new run, the 12Z? Yep, it's done. So there we are, and here's the scattered light rains. It shows the snow much closer to us than the HER does. So right now, I believe the HER more than I do the NAM Nest here, but the NAM Nest has the 540 line, the 5400 line here for your heights, your thicknesses of the atmosphere just past us. And usually north of that, it's snow. And you can see that they have a snow line just in the northern portion of Tippecanoe County. And that would be tomorrow morning. So this is something to keep an eye on if the NAM is a little closer than the HER, but it mostly keeps us in rain and keeps most of the snow to the north. It's just not as far north as the HER does. And then it picks up the scattered showers tomorrow in the evening, overnight, Saturday into Sunday morning, and it's a little less with that, and it doesn't have much for accumulation either. Let's check on it real quick. Accumulation. Yeah, see there, it doesn't even show accumulation over Lafayette, where the other one shows like point 0.1. It shows Crawfordsville at point 0.4. So that's pretty good there on the NAM nest. Now you can go to the NAM. This is a North American model. The nest was a shorter one. This is a little longer. We're going to go out here. We're going to hit the precipitation type. There it is into Sunday, right? Going into Sunday night into Monday, doesn't show much of anything. There we go. It's pretty quiet now. And then we go farther out. The GFS starts right there, and the GFS goes out like 2 weeks. Doesn't bring anything else in. Oh, there's a little system right there. That would be Wednesday next week. Something rushes through, enforces the cold air for a little bit. And this is a new model run. It's about 62% done, so it's not fully finished yet, but it goes way out there. Now we're out to next Saturday. Not much. There looks like something happened the next Saturday or Sunday with a system moving through, and we get out to 240 hours out, and it's pretty quiet. And if I remember, like the last run just after this period, which is next Monday, the 19th, like Tuesday into Wednesday, tries to bring a bigger system into us. But it's 2 weeks away, folks. So a lot of things could change between now and then. The trends are to move back to more seasonal temperatures, not as warm, but more right along the winter lines. And we'll have a couple drops below and a couple drops above temperature wise over the next 20 days, basically 2 weeks anyway. That's the GFS on that and the frontal system on there. So that's what you were looking at. Let's go back and look at the temperatures though through this whole thing. We'll start back at the HRR, the HER, and we go back to the surface and we look at the temperatures, and here they are. They started off this morning way back here. Okay, so here we were this morning. It was like 63 degrees in Lafayette around midnight or so. Then it started dropping around 5 this morning, and we've been hovering in the mid 40s. And this afternoon into this evening, we'll start dropping. Looks like upper 30s to around 40 degrees, maybe 38 tomorrow morning. Not enough to support snow. It doesn't get cold enough. I mean, you can get snow at 36, folks, but right now the entire column doesn't look cold enough until probably into the evening tomorrow night. That's why I would lean towards no snow. And then both of them are saying no snow, but the NAM says it'll be closer. If you're in Rensselaer, you're probably going to see some snow. So that's what we got there. And then it stays in the 30s overnight, Sunday, kind of blustery and cold in the morning, a bit of wind on Sunday morning. Temperatures, it shows 19 to 24 in the local area, somewhere around there. And if you got a wind, let's see, wind of 16 knots, you're going to have wind chills right around 10 degrees. So look for morning wind chills 5 to 15, but we'll call it 10 to give us a little bit of a range there. And then when you go out a little bit, you go to the NAM nest, you see some more temperatures. Same thing, they're hovering around 24 for the same time period. We move forward, we see a little bit of warmth during the day on Sunday, getting back up into the upper 20s. The NAM itself goes out farther. And in each case, we're like losing our intensity of what we're actually seeing. So when you're at the HER, you're like in 4K, right? But that's the first 18 hours to 20 to 48 hours. Then when you switch to the NAM nest, you're starting to go to 1080 PI. Then when you go to the NAM, you're at 720. And by the time you get out to this spot at the GPS or GFS, you're now somewhere in 230 PI if you were talking about screens, pixels on a screen. So it's not as accurate, but it shows bigger things pretty easily. All right. So there's the NAM. That's about 720 pixels, so to speak. That's why the wind barbs are so far apart when you see them actually on here in different places, these wind barbs. It's because the intensity is not as strong. It's not showing 4K or 10p. Now it's 720. And it shows some warmth on Monday, getting back up to around the 40s. And then we go out to the GFS, which is way out, and it's not quite as strong, but it goes way, way out, and it gives you 2 weeks of data, 30s, 40s. There's a day on Wednesday we might push up near 50 degrees depending on sunshine that day. Upper 40s, it looks like. Then it drops back off. Remember, there was a little system comes through midweek, and that reinforces the cold I talked about when we were looking at the charts. And we see the reinforcement there. These temperatures are very close to normal. Yeah, I mean, we're talking highs in the 20s and 30s. Highs this time of the year are like in the low 30s. So we're not out of the extreme anywhere. We're heading towards the coldest time of the year, which is the end of January. And then there's a big push of some cold air next Sunday, January 18th. The previous model showed single digits getting to us. This one does not. Maybe it does on the next day. Nope, doesn't. So it's changing a little bit. And then it looks like a lot of warm air out in the plains next Tuesday, January 20th. And does that change our flow and get us warmer by the end of the month? Everything we looked at earlier on average would be, like I said, like a low 30s for the end of January for your highs, generally speaking, on the average. Locally right now, let's update the chart here, see what it's got. We're going to go to our surface maps. We're going to go to the Midwest. Look at that. The surface main. I want to see the raw METARs in the state, and there they are. That's actual data if you like to look at it this way. And these are METARs. If we go to Lafayette, where are we at? Lafayette's not reporting. Hey, that does happen from time to time. They won't report there. It was too long ago or something. Lafayette is KLAF. If you don't know what the airport is in Lafayette, it's not reporting this hour. Let's go over to Grissom. I've worked over there. I love the people over there. Here's what their weather looks like right now. Grissom is KGUS for their indicator. It tells you it was on the 9th of January at 15:55 Zulu. It is an automated system that runs theirs over there. There are people over there. Keep an eye on it. But the system runs on its own. It's reporting winds from 270 degrees at 24 knots, gusting to 30. So that's gust to about 35 miles an hour. The visibility is unrestricted. They have low clouds overcast at 1,800 feet. So just one layer of clouds they can see from the ground, the sensors, and it's at 1,800 feet. Temperature is 7 degrees Celsius. They work in Celsius in the aviation field, and I worked in aviation through this, and I worked at Grissom for a few years. The altimeter setting is 2987, and remarks there was a peak wind of 36 knots at 21 minutes after the hour. That's how you kind of read these. It also says pressure is rising rapidly, and then it gives you high temperatures of 6.9 and 3.1 over a specific time period. So that was Grissom. Just in the last hour, at the top of the last hour. No reports from Lafayette, and occasionally things will drop off. Let's see if we can find some raw plots. There's the raw plots, but that's too close. We got to go in closer for that, don't we? We got to see. So you can only go in so close on the raw plots. And it shows there's Grissom's right about where the minus is, and Lafayette's right about here. And it shows wind barbs in different places, but it shows most of our temperatures in the 40s. Low 40s on our side of the state, 50s, and then into the 60s over into Ohio. And then you get back into the 30s and 20s back out towards Iowa right now. So that's what the front is, at least when you look at that chart. I really do like the METARs. There's different ways to look at them. When we got that line, the product menu, and I think it was decoded observations in a row, because this lines up my temperatures. Tells me different things. Indianapolis is at 48 degrees right now, but IMS is at 63. So that's way downstate, right? It also gives me some winds. I can pick out high winds at Fort Wayne. It's 29 right now, 29 knots. They're the highest in the state, it looks like. And these are in a line. And again, Lafayette's not on here, so they did not report in the last hour for some reason. Maybe they're doing something to the machine, or maybe it just dropped off. Hopefully someone will keep an eye on that and find out what's going on with that. We go back to the main screen. This is just MSN's main page for weather. It's nothing special. It does show you the current temperature of 44. It tells you the winds are sustained at 15 miles an hour out of the west. That's actually about 280 degrees, 280, but still westerly. Visibility is unrestricted. And then I go back down to my charts. Some of them I like. This one shows you the entire month of what the computer thinks is going to happen. Remember, we looked at all this data. We saw the high temperatures jump. So this is actual data the last few days, and then it shows you the forecast. We got to 63, showing what the temperatures. Your highs are going to be 40s. There's that one near 50 I talked about on Tuesday, and lots of 20s here and 30s, all normal. Not any real big snowfalls until maybe way out. And then look how the temperatures are at the end of the month. There is a cold period at the end of the month. Take it with a grain of salt, though, obviously. 18, 17, some minus temperatures for below 0 on the 29th. We'll see. We are 3 weeks away from that. Lots and lots of changes by then. And then this scale is pretty cool because it shows you the average lows in the dash lines, the average highs in the dash lines, if you follow along where the cursor is there. And if I put my cursor there, it tells me exactly what I'm looking at. So I'll get away from it for a moment. The blue lines are your actual lows to the left here, and then the forecasted lows to the right of this line, which is today. And then the red lines are the actual highs to the left, and then the actual forecasted highs. And you notice this is a long period, goes all the way back to March. So this is what happened this summer. So you notice the temperature's supposed to go up and then they come down. And we've been on that path. As a matter of fact, when you focus on this area right in here, from roughly June wasn't too bad, but right near the end of July all the way to September, we were below normal. So it was a cool summer. And then for a while in September, October, we were above normal pretty consistently. And then there's been lots of up and downs with a big cold period early in December. Remember when we got to -4, -6 degrees, depending on where you were, there's a -5 showing up. Uh, and then we've rebounded back to some really warm and now some real warm stuff, but we're going to go down again for a while and get back closer to normal. As we push towards the end of the month, there could be a cold spell in there, and that's what that's showing. Lots of ups and downs in the spring, if that kind of thing interests you. That's a pretty cool map to go and look at. One more look at the satellite just to see if we got any more. I can see some ground through here in spots. See that? We're seeing a little bit more. So maybe we get a little more spots of sun once the trough kicks through. There's enough back here, but it's going to be a few hours. It's noon now. It's going to take a couple hours for most of us to see anything, and it may be 5 o'clock before we really see any of this sun or open sky come into us for later on today. Nothing on the radar. We're looking good on that front. So we're getting close to the end of the show. It's pretty exciting. Got 15 minutes left here. We went through the weather. We talked about all the different things that have been affecting our weather. We've talked about sports. We've talked about some local stuff, some global stuff. We only had one person in on the chat so far today, and that was my grandson, which is pretty cool. Got to get some more of you on there. You got to start watching the show. Got a thumbs up, though, from somebody. I know a lot of you come in and get in late or come check in the afternoon, which is nice. We got to spread the word about this because this is supposed to be your show. This is you being able to chat with me and talk about things so I don't have to talk the entire 3 hours, and I can just guide you through it. It's something that's been sorely missing in Lafayette. We have some kind of money show on from 9 to 12 on Mondays through Fridays on the talk show that's in town. So that's something I just thought was needed. If you're a mom at home, you just want to chat with somebody while you're doing the laundry or whatever, or you're retired and you're at home and you just want to chat with somebody, this is the perfect place to do that. Something to listen to for 3 hours. People are getting into podcasts pretty consistently. It's just the first week. We're not expecting 1 million people to get in here, and our niche is just going to be basically the Lafayette area. That's what it's going to be. And if you're in the Lafayette area, give me a chat, jump in, and we'll talk. We'll talk, and we'll see what you're interested in, and I'll just guide you through it, and we'll talk, and we'll see. And you can get your opinion out there, and maybe other people will join in and want to see what's going on with you in your life, what you think locally is bad, what you think maybe in the world is bad. I myself never really got the bug for the news until I was probably really the bug till I was in my 30s and 40s. But my grandfather had set it into me that I needed to know what was going on. And so the last 20 years, I've been really big into looking at what is happening all the time. I went through my period where I worried about everything under the sun, which president was in, which thing is happening. Are we on the verge of World War III? Are we ready? We're already in World War III. People just don't know it. We don't know when historians are actually going to set it, but it sure seems like we're already in World War III, and there's a lot of big things on the horizon that are going to happen. I hate to say that. It's a little scary. But if you're a Christian, you know Jesus is coming back sometime, and there's going to be a lot of failings in the world when that happens, and we may be leading right into that. I don't know that for sure, but you need to be prepared, right? That's what we teach. You need to be prepared at all times. Find a loving Christ to walk with you, someone to talk with you. Maybe you want to talk about some of the sins you've run into in your life, your addictions, your problems. We can talk about that here on the chat in the next week or two or weeks, whenever we want to. If you'd like to do that, I'd love to talk to you about things like that too. Maybe you just don't like the way the roads are happening in Lafayette, and you want to talk about that. We can talk about that. We'll talk about anything. Um, but this is supposed to be a show for you, and I would love for you all to be able to see it, listen to it, chat with me. Eventually, we'll get some phone lines in. You can actually call in. uh, I think you could call me now, and I could probably hold the phone up here, and you would probably hear it. But I don't know if that's something that will work or not work. I've seen other guys do that. I'm not sure if I've got it ready, but I think it could work. So my sister's watching. Give me a call back, right? So and we'll talk to her and get her on the air and see if it actually works, so we can test it in the next 10 minutes before we close up the show. So let's hit some highlights again. I'm gonna go look and see if there's any big news happening again, real quick. I'm going to go to X first and just see some highlights. Still a lot of information about the lady who got shot in the car the other day, and how that when you're having a car and you're running at somebody, the police do have the right to shoot at you because you're going to get run over if you're not, right. It is a weapon. It's just like having a car. So um I'm trying to take a look at some of the things here. Oh, here's a pretty cool one. Here's the brackets that came out. This is just brackets. This is done by Fox College Hoops. It's got Michigan number one in the Midwest, and obviously they have played the best, I think, all season so far. And they are deserving. But over the last month, Purdue is the number one team in the country, and the numbers state that right now. In the South, it shows Purdue as a number two seed. Now, I will not be surprised if Purdue's a number one seed or a two. One or two is all you need. That's all you need. That gives you your run. They showed Purdue number two in the South with Iowa State number one. I don't like that. I hate that. When they put teams in your bracket, and again, we are 2 months from this happening. It's just somebody's idea of teams that you have already played and you got to play again. So if both teams went chalk, Iowa State would play Purdue to get into the Final Four. Well, they already played each other. I hate that. I would rather them play other teams unless you get to the Final Four, I guess. And in this case, it would be in the grade eight, they would play each other. But then there's also the possibility of playing Illinois in there, who they will have played. Um, and so only two in there, but I've seen brackets where six of the teams are teams Purdue's already played. Well, that's no fun. I don't want to see them play other teams. I like them to see them play other teams. Out west, it shows Arizona number one and Nebraska number two. Oh, that's pretty cool. Nebraska, that would be exciting for them. So there's kind of how your brackets break down. Uh, East has Duke at number two, if I didn't say anything about that. And the Midwest has Vanderbilt, who's also been playing great, coming out of nowhere, right? So Vanderbilt's been a surprise, and Nebraska's been a surprise, and they show them both as number two seeds right now on the Fox college bracket. That just came out. They just posted that a few hours, 21 minutes ago, they posted that. So pretty exciting. Go check their website out for all that if you want to see that, what's going on there with bracket challenges already starting to come out and see what people would like. Um, let's see. I'm getting a lot of jokes and stuff. Let me hit some of my people I'm following. Maybe that'll help a little bit easier than the standard just running through for you stage. Because I get a lot of basketball stuff in this, which is nice. I'm getting some football things. Um, there's a Purdue on the Big Ten or BTN, and the Big Ten Network put this out. You're going to want to watch these Braden Smith assists on repeat, and it's like 45 seconds long. It's him behind the back and over things and throwing things. That's some great shots there that came out. And Derek Jordan of college basketball, or CBB, says this: the best duo in the history of college basketball. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have put up insane numbers, and it's not over yet. They have played 78% of the available minutes since they stepped foot on campus at Purdue. That's truly incredible. 3,600 minutes for Fletch and 4,170 minutes played for Braden, right? And this is actually out before the Washington game because it only shows him at 893 assists, and he's actually at 900 now. Combined 250 games, and about 7,700 or 7,800 minutes played. Total points around 3,100, and threes made about 450. Crazy, crazy numbers. And by the end, they may have. I heard this on somebody's. They may have the all-time numbers played together minutes of two people. And Trey didn't play a lot that first season. That's why he's not in the mix with the bigger numbers like that. He was a little more limited, not his fault, just Zach was there. It's the way it was. But them two have played some big time numbers and big time minutes. Um, what else we got? Okay, remember the mayor yesterday came out and was cussing at people, telling them to get out of town. Well, he's calming himself down a little bit now. Um, uh, and people have said certain things in different places. And as soon as they say something that's not right, this side attacks them. And they say something that's not right, this side attacks him. So now he's coming out and he's attacking people that he can attack. But I don't need my politicians getting out there being foul all the time. And you don't need foul words to get your point across. I'm sorry, you just don't. The women won a big game last night. They won 75-67 as they went to Madison. They went to Wisconsin, and they got their first win of the Big Ten season. And they're going to be playing some pretty good games this year. They're in a building stage. That's okay. If you want to go see them, you go to Mackey and see them. If you can't get to a men's game and you just want to see some college basketball and some good college basketball, the ladies are there for you. So that's how that's working. I did see this one too. This was pretty funny. Um, Coach Painter put this out. He said, so he was asked about Fletch talking in the lineup and talking in huddles and things like that. And Coach said, empower the people who are committed, empower the people who are intelligent. In other words, let them talk when they need to talk. Now, obviously, Coach is there. He's the main guy. The other guys come in afterwards. And he was speaking highly of Fletcher Lawyer's leadership. But then he added, he said, you don't empower stupid people, right? Or unintelligent people. So if he's talking, he's obviously knows what he's doing. And remember, Fletch is a coach's son, so he knows what he's doing. Benter's a coach's son. A lot of the guys had their dads were coaches. Those are guys who generally know the game better than everybody else. I'm just putting it forward. That's the way it kind of works out. So here's a quote from Tucker Carlson. What did he put out? The capturing of Maduro was a pivot point in American history. What does it mean for the future of our country? And like I said, we're kind of Trump is putting it all out there. Now we can either waver one direction or the other. He's trying to get it for the good of us, but it could be for the bad too. It's hard to say. We won't know for a while on this, but the dominoes so far are falling all in our favor so far. And some random quotes about the Big Ten in here that I found. Uh, Offensive advantages, defense, and more from Purdue's win over Washington from Brian Newbert. Brian Newbert's a great reporter. Go to goldenblack.com to see him, and he's got a story in there about that, about the reviews of the game against Washington. And they did. They played great. They just had a little down spot. It's not that big deal. It's part of the game. It is. You cannot stop the other team all the time. Sometimes they're going to make a basket or two, and they might come back. And Washington came back in the last 10 minutes of that game. They still won by 8 and never got any closer than that. So um, here's some thoughts from Derek Jordan, CBB again. His first half thoughts of this. I think he's talking about the season. Calls have dominated momentum. Trey's triple-double watch every single. Okay, this is about the game the other night. Fletcher's cold shooting. Defense was impeccable. And good minutes from DJ and Omar. That's from the first game and the first half of the first game the other night. So he threw that out, and it's still there out on Twitter or X. X. I like to call it X. It's a little shorter, but everybody says Twitter, don't they? That's kind of the way they go. What else is going on, folks? This is it. It's Freaky Friday. I kind of played it by ear. I didn't write anything down. I just started talking and started looking at things. We did our big deep weather dives that we do 20 minutes or so on each hour because I know you like that. You want to see what's going on. A lot of my friends like to see more distinct things that are happening. And so we kind of went through that. We covered Purdue sports. We covered some local things. We covered a lot of world things. And we're going to call it an end of the day here. Here we are at noon on Friday, January 9th. Hopefully you have a great day, a blessed day. Let me find if I've got my portion in here. I wrote it down somewhere. It's kind of a wrap. It's been blustery out there. Going to keep you on alert if something happens. Lots of community triumphs we talked about. Some challenges also in the city. We talked about there being a facility for our youth coming in, possibly a 30,000 square foot thing for the juveniles that are in trouble to help them rehabilitate. Remember, if you got thoughts on any of these or tips for future shows, hit me up. Hit us up on X at Let's Talk Lafayette, which stops at the T. So it's Letstalk, just like you're spelling Let's Talk Lafayette, but they won't let you go out the other two letters. There's too many. So stay safe out there. Bundle up for the weekend. All blessings from God towards you this weekend. I pray that everyone has a great weekend, a great time frame. No one gets hurt. God guides you through life. You enjoy everything that has come to you, and that you open your eyes to the things you do have and close your eyes to the things that are troubling you so much and put them on the back burner so God can take the forefront. All right. Amen on that. We'll see you on Monday and have a great weekend. This is Let's Talking Lafayette signing off. See you next time.